Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is, what is it, Tuesday, March the 24th, 2020, 11:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is episode 33 of McRae Live, and my guest today is somebody that I've been wanting to get on the show since I started doing this, and I had the wonderful opportunity, and well, not just the opportunity, I did meet him obviously back in November. I was killing about 3 birds with 1 stone. It is Vincent DiSanti. Hopefully I'm saying that right. DiSanti. He'll correct me. The writer, director, producer, and even star of Never Hike Alone, and of course he is doing the prequel right now, or he's just finished shooting the prequel and is in post-production on the prequel Never Hike in the Snow. We're going to be talking independent filmmaking. We're going to be talking Never Hike in the Snow. We're going to be talking a bunch of things today on the show. Here he is. You know him. Well, if you don't, you will now. Vincent. Vinny.
Yeah, you're on the East Coast, so now it's back to Vinny. Yeah. In LA, it's Vincent because if I say Vinny at Starbucks, they write Benny on the cup. So Vincent's like a surefire way to get my actual name on the cup at Starbucks. But East Coast, it's Vinny. DiSanti, you're close. I mean, it's a tough one. I know. Just throwing like a bag of marbles at people and like, here, just try to chew on that.
Is it DiSanti?
DiSanti. Yeah.
DiSanti. Okay, I got it. Vinny DiSanti. All right, I'll remember that.
Now you sound like you're from my neighborhood.
Whereabouts are you from anyway?
I'm originally from Westport, Massachusetts, which is a small little farm town in New England. So, I'm tucked up there in the cold New England world.
Yes. Totally.
That's where I grew up. I moved out to LA like now 13 years ago, something like that.
Wow. And what brought you, other than the obvious, was it what you're doing now that brought you out to Los Angeles, or was it some other piece of work?
I wanted to be a world-renowned fan filmmaker. No, I just wanted to work in the business. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to make moving pictures. Kid, get out to Hollywood.
Right. Gotcha.
I didn't even want to move to Hollywood. The last thing I ever wanted to do was leave my hometown.
Right.
I wanted to stay in my hometown forever and find a job somewhere in Boston or Providence or something. I would have preferred Providence because that was a 20-minute drive.
Right.
Working in media, news, local news, stuff like that. And there were no jobs. I couldn't get anything out of school. It was like 2007. And I happened to have a friend who had been a lifelong friend. We'd known each other since I was 5 years old. He was a visual effects artist who got a job in Los Angeles and lived out here. And we had his going away party and said, sayonara, we'll never see you again. And then a couple years later, it was like, hey, you got any jobs? And I got a job PAing at his company and started there. And I just worked my way up. And now 14 years later, I'm making independent films and working freelance and working on set. And that thing that I moved out here to do, I'm now finally doing.
You're now finally doing. Yeah, I hear you. Well, it's interesting because I, before Never Hike Alone, I mean, obviously, fan films are, it's funny, because, okay, before I get to that, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So tell me about Whomp Stomp films. I mean, why Whomp Stomp? Where did Whomp Stomp come from? What was the moment that you decided, you know what, I've been doing this, I got some experience, I'm learning, the tricks of the trade. I'm out here now. I'm going to start my own production company. Where did that?
It really came from. It came from Never Hike Alone. I mean, Never Hike Alone was the birthing aspect of Whomp Stomp films, and what Whomp Stomp was simply like the stupid username that I used online. For everything. It was my Instagram account. It was my chat accounts. It was all that stuff. And when I commented on films, it was Whomp Stomp was talking, or Whompa Stomp or something like that. And it's based on a cheat code that you would put into like Star Wars something back on Nintendo 64, where you could just warp into the level as the Wampa and just start smashing stormtroopers.
Right.
And so it was like one of my favorite things to do. And I always loved the cheat code, which was Wampa Stompa. And it just stuck with me, and I thought it was a catchy thing. And so Whomp Stomp was my Instagram handle, and I was posting a lot of stuff for Never Hike Alone on Whomp Stomp, and I was building a team. And I realized that like Whomp Stomp wasn't just Whomp Stomp anymore. It was like we were making films. We weren't doing I wasn't just doing photography anymore. It wasn't about my photo feed. It was about the videos that I was going to do.
Right.
So that's when I kind of transitioned it into Whomp Stomp Films. And it's been that ever since. And it started as this LLC that we put together so we could handle the finances to start making independent films.
Right.
And here we are 3-4 years later, still doing it. And I never really thought that after Never Hike Alone, it would have life. But we've used it to do original projects. We've co-produced on other fan films, and our experience of making Never Hike Alone has helped us consult with other people and help them understand the true nature of what it takes to independently make a film.
100%.
It's not just fan films, but fan films do have their own rules, and it is good to know and play by those rules.
Yeah.
But when you're just making an independent film, it's a challenging endeavor. And it's something that, because I had previous experience in the professional arena producing and working on films and being in that environment and now trying to recreate it on the independent circuit, it's a tough challenge. And a lot of people don't know what they don't know. And so you go in, you help people kind of figure out how to navigate those waters and make sure that it ends up saving them thousands and thousands of dollars that can go into the film, rather than losing it to the kind of the things that can take away from the film without adding any value to it. And that's really the struggle, as any filmmaker will, I dare attest.
100%. I totally hear you. No, it's interesting because, fan films, I mean, when I sort of, I've had this channel since 2006, and I never really did anything with it until just a couple years ago. And I remember about 10 years or so ago, there was a stigma to fan films, and rightly so, to a degree. I mean, most fan films 10 years ago, earlier, than that, were your sort of backyard friends after school kind of thing, that kids were doing. And then there was maybe a few little higher end films, but there was a stigma around it, and I found myself falling into that stigma mentally as well, and sort of even with some of the little things that I've created, and sort of just kind of like there was kind of like this psychological thing that this is just what it is, and then you come along, and I know I'm not the only one that has told you this, but you come along and you sort of blow the doors wide open with Never Hike Alone, in the sense of that you've inspired a lot of people, including myself, I might add, who works in the industry, to make me realize what fan films actually could be. And it's sort of how I've turned the page over to the Black Christmas fan film that I'm involved with now, taking it to the same sort of level with what we're doing, and kind of making me realize, Jesus, I really should be utilizing my resources here and capitalizing on the thing, because and my buddy who works in the film industry is like, why aren't we doing this? Like we're like, we have access to this stuff. Why are we doing this? And it's like, I guess because I just thought that's what fan films were. And now I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, if Vince, wait a minute here, hang on a second here. You know what I mean? So when I saw this and I watched Never Hike Alone, I remember it came out, I watched it. I'm sitting here in my chair, right where I am right now. And the first thought in my mind, the first 10 minutes into the movie, I think to myself, I'm not watching a fan film. I'm watching a movie. I'm watching it's a fan film by category, but it's a movie. And when you watch, and I highly recommend anybody to watch the behind the scenes little featurette documentary. I guess, what is it, about an hour long, 45 minutes?
No, the featurette's only about half hour.
Oh, is it really? God. Okay. I thought it was longer, but anyway, I thought it was a bit longer.
I had a very distinct thing. There was a point where it was an hour long, and then I said, my behind the scenes cannot be longer than my movie.
That's a good point. That's actually a good point.
And so I went in with like a hard cut, and I was like, let me just get to brass tacks and just tell the story and not get into the nitty gritty details.
Right.
If anybody ever wants to know the nitty gritty details behind some of the stuff, like, come to a con and ask us about it, and we'll talk to you for hours. But
for sure.
Or maybe on a future thing we'll talk about it, but it's,
Right. Yeah.
I just wanted it to be a nice chunk, but it's there. It's available on YouTube, both of them.
Yes.
On the Whomp Stomp Films channel. So
anybody who watch anybody, whether, it doesn't matter who you are, watch this half-hour documentary on the making of Never Hike Alone. And when of course, I love that kind of shit, as you know, we all do, right? We love watching the behind-the-scenes stuff.
That's what gets a lot of us into it.
100%. So as I was watching it, you know, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, they're making a movie, like and it made me realize, wait a minute, I got access to, what the hell am I doing? Why am I not? And then of course the thought was, you know, do I do a Halloween fan? And I'm just Halloween tapped out. I'm just like, I don't want to. It's just, so I thought, what about Black? It's a Canadian movie shot in Toronto, not too much going on. I saw like, you know, an opportunity to kind of do something like that. So that's what we're doing. But you've inspired me and inspired others, sort of, and people that maybe don't even work in the industry. I may not even have access to this, but you've inspired them to reach for that, to aspire to that. And then you've inspired people like me to actually take advantage of that.
Yes.
And it's like, and now you have Never Hike in the Snow, which is the prequel to Never Hike Alone, which you just finished shooting. But anyway, let me back up a little bit. I just got really excited there because I'm just like, Jesus, it just got me so. And now I haven't been so excited to make an independent film in my life.
You can hear it.
100%.
It's like that passion. It's like what it is.
100%.
It's waking up that like, this is why people should be making movies. This fire that burns, that like makes us want to tell story. And it's like, it's right behind, it's coming out your ears and your ass. And like, you just can't like, you're living and breathing. And you're like, I got to get this thing out of me. And
Absolutely.
we all have that with especially with our favorites. So like a Black Christmas or Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the characters that we love, we want to tell stories about them because we've seen them in action and we think, oh, there's cool ways that you can keep using this character. And as creatives, one of the things as we do is we like to play with other people's toys.
That's right.
So and
that's a whole
really
other movie there, folks.
We're adult children playing with life-size toys, and instead of doing the movies in our backyards and doing all the things that we used to like orchestrate with like all over there, it's arranging people and actually playing the symphony. And like you said, you have the resources, and it was the same thing with me. It was the resources of reaching out through the independent circuit and searching for talent and finding people. And a lot of it's dumb luck too, where it's like, you know, Andrew just happened to be a PA that worked with me at an animation job.
Exactly.
And we became friends. And I said, it's you. But I mean, how much more of a perfect choice could I make? It wasn't really a choice. He just had the job. It just so happened he was amazing. Right. So, you know, it really started as, it was just us as friends. We didn't have to audition. We didn't have to beat anybody out for the roles. Right. We were just friends getting together saying, we have this talent. Let's promote ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah, no, sorry.
And, you know, it's like trust in yourself. But at the same time, we all kind of like the idea and the challenge. And we're like, okay, we work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But Saturday, what are we doing? Are we playing golf? Or are we grabbing that camera, going into the woods and making some stuff up? Exactly. You know, am I taking my extra income and buying clubs? Or am I buying a mask? Or am I buying some jackets that I can tear up and make my own costume and then walk cons with? So it's like, it's all kind of based out of the fandom. And yeah, so that's really where it stems from.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I just can't. I just can't. I mean, it's not that you intentionally did it that way, but in terms of to inspire people as a conscious thing, it's sort of you were inspired yourself, and you were just doing what you do, what you're born to do, what you have always wanted to do, and by default, when people do that, it's natural when people do that you're just, by the residual effects of that is that you're going to inspire others. And that was the case with me. And then of course, you know, with Cecil announcing Dylan's New Nightmare and which was sort of announced around the time that I was announcing It's Me, Billy, but it was the same kind of thing. It's that inspiration and the quality, the production value, the time and the effort that you put into it. I mean, it's a fan film, like I said, by category, but you're making a movie because you have the resources. And we understand that not everybody has access to this, you know, level of resources, but if you do, and you can take advantage of it, you can make something not only that you're really proud of and excited about, but the fans can be really proud of and excited about as well. And I can only imagine, you know, I mean, not everybody's going to like what we do, but certainly Never Hike Alone was I mean, if it had a Rotten Tomatoes score, I would probably say it was, I could see it settling in the high 80s, you know, because there's some people that are, you know, that are going to be like, well, what the fuck? I don't really. And then you got others that are like, you know, I could see it, you know, up there. Oh, yeah, for sure. I'd give it fucking like a 99. You can't give anything perfect. There's always something that you're like,
I mean, we do have our like to dislike ratio on YouTube is 99.9%.
Well,
something like that.
Well, excuse
or
me.
No, 99.1. It's really nice. But on IMDb, we're 6.9. We fell below our 7.
That's because
we had 7 for so long. And I was like, oh, that's such a nice IMDb number. And now it's 69. And I'm like, okay.
Whatever.
No, somebody went firebombed me, but
somebody who didn't get the audition.
Asshole with his fan film.
That's right. But it's great. And like this, and I showed my buddy Bruce as well when we were in the early stages. And I said, look at this fan film. And I hadn't met you yet, but I was like, look at this fan film. And we watched it, you know, and we're like, dude, like this is great. Like this is exactly what fan films can and should be if they are able to be. And I think, and you might know this a bit better than me because you've done 2 of these now, although the second one is not out yet. And I understand that it can be specific, it can be circumstantial, very individualized in terms of the studios. But I gather, and I know at any time things can change, and rightfully so, the law is the law, but I gather that what is sort of a maybe a trend, and again, I don't want to say anything that may not be correct, but I feel as though studios are beginning to see the value in fan films, as long as they're not, you know, making, you know, it's not a commercial endeavor. You're not raising $5 million. It's not maybe feature length. You're not trying to sell it to Netflix. I mean, obviously those are sort of standard things that anybody would know, but there's value in it because it keeps their beloved properties in the pop culture when they're not actually there. Am I right to assume that? Do I get that sense?
Yeah. And I think that it's twofold. If someone's a good enough fan filmmaker, and I'm just lobbying for myself right now, it's like, if they're doing that well, maybe you should just give them a job.
Yes.
It probably wouldn't hurt to put somebody on that roster, to have somebody in that market. Not to say they're going to go direct the next, you know, big Star Trek fan film or the next Star Trek film, but like those Star Trek guys who are and this is where it all stems from. The entire debate over fan films was made. It was made in I think the early 2010s or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was Zack Snar or something like that. A very nerdy name is all I remember. But I remember they raised $1.2 million and Paramount stepped in and the owners of Star Trek stepped in, because there are 1,000 Star Trek fan films. I mean, that's where fan filmdom really came from. It was like Star Trek, Star Wars, the Indiana Jones remake thing that the guy made. Kind of all stemmed out of that. Yeah. And those were amazing efforts and things like that. But horror was kind of just... there was nobody in there who really had a sense of like independent filmmaking. It was just friends with their cameras filming crazy stuff. So, but some people put stories together and they were really impressive, but they didn't have the equipment to do it. Right. Then you have a film like this that goes out, raise 1.2, 2.3, something like that, $1 million on Kickstarter. They step in, they get sued. You actually have a battle within the studio where J.J. Abrams is fighting for them, saying, why are you going after these films? They're actually impressive filmmakers. Allow them the ability to do this. And Paramount saying, well, how can we allow this to happen? It's competing with our stuff. It could be doing this. It could be doing that. They're getting old actors to come back and reprise their roles. And we have contracts with them for them to come back. Right. Well, Star Trek and Star Wars, things like that, that's big money. Oh yeah. And there's a lot of corporate investment in that. Friday the 13th, it's big horror money. Right. But they're not really worried about what their alumni are doing. Right. They're kind of like, go out and make your buckos. Like, do whatever you need. Go sign your autographs, go print your pictures, go do that. Like, go what you do. There's no sense of like, we own this character and it has to carry through and you cannot like deter it from our very immaculate continuity. Friday the 13th has no legs to stand on there. So what happens is that you take the rules that were taken out of that lawsuit, which are basically keep your films under $50,000, don't hire actors, don't make movies, make web series, and and don't make any profit. That's a big one. Don't profit and don't sell for distribution. So you can't sell it. Like, I literally got an email this morning from a Russian distribution company saying, is Nefer Hike Alone available for distribution? I'm like, it's free on YouTube. You can just share the link.
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
it's really funny. So I can't say yes and then say, here's pay me $50 million to pay Never Hike Alone on your Russian channel.
Yes.
That's
as much as you'd love to, you can't.
Yeah, all the funding that you raise has to be dedicated towards services to the film. But people can be paid. Like, you can hire a vendor to come in and build you something. You can hire somebody to come on your set and perform a task. But I myself cannot be counting the money and saying, well, here's that new big screen TV I want. Bam. You know, here's, this, bam. It's all going to be towards spending on the film. And if you're a good filmmaker, you don't want to spend your money. You want to save and keep and claw and keep as much of it as possible, because the more you have as your production goes on, and you go, oh, I didn't know that there's going to be that telephone pole in the shot. I need to have that removed. Hello, VFX artist. How much does that cost? $200. Well, good thing I didn't spend, $200 on coffee that day, and I kept.
Good thing I didn't take an axe and get rid of the pole.
I didn't. So it's like that's the struggle with independent filmmaking, and you always have to make those decisions. And sometimes what happens is that fan films, because they have a draw, because they're using an entity, they're able to draw more funding because there's a fan base there. And if you can present to a fan base that you have the chops to actually execute something at an independent level of something you'd see at any festival, or even a lot of the independent films that you see in the horror world, if you can match that production quality, for that small price and create something within that package, then fans will invest in it. And 100%. It's just, and it's like a bunch of people coming together. And that's why it gets really gray here when you talk about like the money raising thing, because a bunch of people are agreeing to hand somebody money over an agreement that doesn't even guarantee that they're going to get what they want. And it's tough to really come in and sue people when a bunch of people with free will walk around and say, we are all collectively pooling and giving this person money to execute this idea. We're not giving it to him to profit. We're giving it to him or her to run this business. That is essentially what it becomes. It becomes a small little business engine that has to produce a product, and that product is a film. And if you don't reach that goal, then you should have problems. Then people should be asked questions, and that should be where it goes.
Well, naturally.
Yeah. And so Friday the 13th, they do support fan films. They are ahead of the curve on that, where they realize that fan films keep it alive. They're not hurting anybody. They're not losing any money, especially, for the type of money they want to make. They're talking about millions.
Of course.
If Never Hike in the Snow goes out, and then all of a sudden I do a second run of the Blu-ray so I can get it out to more people, and that sells $1 million, well, Sean's going to come in, and all I'm going to say to Sean is, how much do you want for your cut? And why don't you hire me to do the next film? Or why don't you hire me to continue this, get me more funding, make me legit like Friday the 13th, the game, and we can continue doing it this way. You can have your piece. Victor can have his piece. The fans will have complete control. For the first time, you will relinquish this burden that has been yours for so long, trying to figure out how to make Friday the 13th for the masses. Well, it's like, I think for us, we're like, we figured it out. We got a really good storyline. We brought characters back. We got it going. We want to sell it to them, and we want to follow the rules. So we're starting to like expand out of what we were, because when at first it was just Andrew, and it was just us, and so there was no breaking of the rules. We were below $50,000. We followed all the rules on the fifth one, except for Tom. But what we did is we saved him. We didn't advertise him. We didn't use his name to make any money. We didn't sell it in that way. We put fan film first, and we always do. We always put fan film first, and we're proud of it. We want to show that fans made this. The studio didn't make this. The fans made it. And that's really important to us. And since then, the opportunities have been there for us to expand. And slowly but surely, we take one step over the line. We execute at that level. We look around and say, hey, are we okay? Are we going to get sued? No? All right, we're going to take one more step and see if we can make this a little bit better. We're going to take one more step and see if we can improve the production value. The fans rallied around Never Hike Alone. The first time we made Never Hike Alone, we only raised $20,000 in crowdfunding, not even. Then we did a Blu-ray and we raised 50. which was crazy to me.
Yeah,
we finally hit our goal. It finally paid off the movie because we were in serious debt because we only raised 20, and a lot of that went to the crowdfunding stuff.
Right.
Luckily, all the crowdfunding stuff got paid for, and we basically had to pay for the film out of all the savings that I had made working at a real job.
Right.
Then I got to pay myself back, which I think everyone would think is fair for all the debt that we created.
100%.
And then we donated that money to, a forestation program. We had a member of our crew, his name's JD Martz. He was a director of photography.
Yep.
About a week after we finished filming in August, we did our final pickups. He was surfing on the beach here in LA, fell off his board and broke his neck.
Oh,
yeah. And he's paralyzed from the shoulders down.
Oh, poor guy.
It was a big loss to our team, our friends. It was a huge moment for us, and so we donate to his funding as well. So out of
100%.
Part of that Blu-ray fund went to him.
Right.
I think on the second run that we did it, and we kept it in check. We tried to always keep it in the realm of like, so if someone pre-orders it, we'll buy it, but we're not going to buy 50,000 of them and then sell it to Amazon. And so that's another difference. Yeah.
The director of photography that broke his neck, was he the guy that shot Never Hike Alone?
He was one of two. So there were two. There was Chris Ellis, and then there was JD. So Chris was like because there was a dual format there. And so there was the GoPro and there was the regular camera. And so there had to be two DPs operating at the same time a lot. Right. So Chris was working on, more of the cinema camera, and JD did a lot of our action photography, our GoPro photography, and then was a second unit DP. So when all of this has happened and we were going to give him the second unit DP credit, I just said, you know what, for all the effort that JD did and everything, like, he's a DP. Like,
for sure,
him and Chris are equals, and we couldn't have done this film without him. I want him on the main credits. I don't want him in the back.
Right.
And we put him up there with Chris because at the beginning he just kind of joined as a volunteer and worked his way all the way up to that, and became an amazing friend. So so this has been like, this journey has been ups and downs on for many personal and professional reasons. So it's it's a crazy ride.
How is he doing now?
He's living back in Massachusetts. That's where he's originally from. Him and his girlfriend live together with their dog. Right. And they're a great couple. They take care of each other.
It's an adjustment.
He's still doing his recovery. He does a lot of rehab.
Good for him.
And we check in every now and then, see how he's doing. He was, he has programs that allows him to still kind of work on the computer. And I saw him editing. I went and visited him, I say about a year and a half ago, and he was editing stuff, showing stuff that we shot before he got injured. Right. And he's a strong guy, and we miss him dearly. And hopefully one day we can have him back out on set. And
for sure. Well, you know what? I mean, obviously I don't know him and I've never met him, but my thoughts are with him if he ever watches this. I mean, obviously it's an unfortunate accident and just a reminder of how, your life can change at a moment's notice. And, if he's watching, keep strong, keep your spirits up. And I have no doubt that you will find a way back into the business on some level. That's just,
Well, he actually runs a business. I mean, that's one of the
there you go. There you go.
He's the man. JD is like the best.
Awesome.
And, we just miss him.
Awesome. Very cool. Because so, I mean, now how do you, when you look at Never Hike Alone, every filmmaker, no matter which level you're working at, looks at their movie when it's all done, and we always hope to be more satisfied than not. We always hope to, we like everything, of course, so that doesn't generally happen. Usually you'll watch something and go, I should have done that. Or, you know what, I wish I could have had that, which is unbeknownst to the average viewer because they're obviously watching it from a different point of view. Is there anything in I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anything in Never Hike Alone where you're like, I wish I could have done that a bit better? Or you know what? You know what? Okay. At first I was like, but you know what? It's growing on me. Like, as a filmmaker, as the director, as the producer, as the writer, I watch it and I think this is great. There's a few things creatively as a creator myself, and I'm like, oh, I think maybe he should have done that. But, oh, okay. No, I see what he's doing there. But is there anything for you where you watch and you like things that we wouldn't know because we weren't on set, so we don't know how much it took you to get that, or like, you know what I mean? Is there anything that you wish you could have done a bit differently?
Yeah, I mean, from front to back. I mean, there's lots of things that, like, camera choices. But there were things that we learned along the way, because this wasn't like a 3-week production that we banged out and we could look at. Like,
no, it was over months, wasn't it?
It was years. It was a year and a half. Wow. So it was just like, so what happened was is we would do that every weekend. We would go, what did we do wrong? What could we do better? Why did we do it this way? Why didn't we do it that way?
Right.
And we allowed ourselves to go back and fix some of those mistakes. So there's a lot of that in there, but we couldn't reshoot everything.
Of course.
You know, so there are things that like, I would say, next time I do this, like the next time we shot with like 5 cameras, I think, because we were trying to find the camera we wanted to use, and landed on the Red Epic, but our B cam was a Panasonic Vericam, which shoots in a different format. And then we also shot on a Sony A7 II and a ton of other cameras.
Dude, you whatever color grade you did, whatever. I mean,
Milton and Greg were our color and online editors, and they did a fantastic job of evening the film out.
I was just gonna say, because I don't notice the difference.
Well, a lot of it was also due to the fact that each scene is shot with a specific camera. So scene to scene, it's actually not too bad. It works well. And then when you move to a new environment, if it's a new camera, you notice it a little bit less. I mean, there's almost an art to doing it that way, picking the right camera for the setting, like shooting interiors or like shooting exteriors with a red when the light is blasting, and then shooting interiors with a Vericam because you have a high, you know, low light level setting that you can shoot on with a 5000 ISO that's native and gives you no grain. So you can bump all the, you know, bump the world up and actually see what you're doing in the dark. But again, you know, it just comes down to, and that's for like low budget because you can't afford lights. But on the set that you can afford the lights, you know how to, you know, you can get the lights to like really shape your sets. I think to actually answer the question, it's
perfect, Dave. Shut up.
No. I kind of recognize all the places along the way where
anybody would.
I see what I did wrong here.
Right.
I see where I could have done this, or like there's stuff early on that we shot that ended up in the film that if we had filmed it towards the end would have been executed a lot better.
Interesting.
You know, certain angles, and I'm like, oh, I left the camera leaning to the right here. It's not balanced. You know, like, and I remember Chris yelling at me about this, but this is the best take and I got to stick with it. Like, I think you live that experience in editorial because you have a vision of what your movie is supposed to be, and then you go out and shoot that vision, and then in editorial, the footage just tells you, no, you didn't shoot that vision.
Right.
This is what you got because this is what you were afforded. So now you have to make this work, and it's almost you have to unhinge your brain of the way it's supposed to go.
Right.
And the nice thing about that is a lot of the times you find better solutions.
Right.
And you come up with different ideas. And I think that I'm very proud of what we assembled, considering sort of what my original vision was from the start and how we built it. The fact that it like, even over all that time through all those changes, it still fit together.
Right.
And it kind of just, because I had to have faith in the story and understand that I was always walking the path the story needed to go on, and not finding one of those side trails like Kyle MacLeod and ending up in the wrong place. And it was all built out of opportunity and kind of circumstance. Like, we didn't have Tom at the beginning of the film, stuff like that. So it's that. I mean, there are just certain places where I think I could have been a stronger director. There are certain places where I think that I could have got more interesting coverage or lit something a different way, or should have and things I should have noticed. And you put that in your memory bank, and the next time you go you think about it. And I think that that's really been like a progression. Is I took that mentality, I took it to a lot of the, films that I've, associated produced, like Spirit of Haddonfield and Dylan's New Nightmare and Jason Rising, and Face of Michael Myers and stuff like that. And I'm able to help other people do it. And then by helping other people do it and them making their own mistakes still and doing that stuff, I'm still learning. Of course. And so by the time I came back around to approach Never Hike in the Snow, also, and also going off to start doing set work where I was working on The Rookie and like working on bigger productions, Kaminsky Method and Why Women Kill, and seeing like, that's where I always wanted to be, was on that set to see how that ship ran.
Right.
So I could recreate it on a smaller level, and then taking all that experience, all the mistakes I made on Never Hike Alone, and saying, we're going to do it this way. Never Hike in the Snow, we shot in 6 days.
Yeah. That's
we went from a year and a half to
6
a 6-day shoot. And we got 22 pages worth of material that were high level technical stuff. And so and I think that people will see that. I mean, if you guys thought Never Hike Alone kind of blew the doors off of fan films, and I'm not one to be the guy who's like, well, my shit don't stink.
Right.
But I was looking at those monitors and I was seeing, like, even looking at the monitors, I never hike alone most of the time. I was like, I'm almost there, but I'm not there yet. But this is pretty close.
I got
Looking at these monitors, I'm saying, here it is. This is these are the shots, and this is the look, and this is the quality. We're finally at that level where you really won't be able to tell, because there are places in Never Hike Alone where I can tell that it's an independent film, or that it's this, or that it's that, because I know the camera being used, or I know what happened after the before the in cut and after the out cut. About how, like, we like barely snuck this one piece of a shot in to get it, but everything else was shit.
I gotcha. Yeah.
but that worked. I got it.
That's right.
And now being able to be like, no, really pay attention, like, so we don't have to do it this time, and knowing how to execute a set a little bit better and have a smoother ride out there. That was, I'm still going to have stuff. There's still stuff I never hike in the snow that I'm like, where I think about it and I've been kind of racking it through my brain. Like, oh, did I cover that right? Did I get it? But I'm kind of like in that place where now in Never Hike Alone, where I was so anxious to get an editorial and I was so nervous and I didn't know how people were going to react. And I think this time I have less of that. I know the pressure is there, but I'm less susceptible to it.
Sure.
Because I trust in my team. I trust that I'm probably going to go through a similar experience like before. I know it's not going to be all gravy, but I know wherever it is, we'll figure out where we are. We'll find the solution. We'll execute it, and we'll move on for each step until it's ready to go and we release it. And I think people are going to be really, I think that it's going to make people think about fan films in a different way again. And they're going to really think about how powerful some of these films can be, and and what type of level they can reach, because our goal was to make it look like an HBO show. And I think that we may have, and that's the goal.
Look, that excites me, because, seeing some of the behind the scenes photos that you would release on Twitter or post on Instagram, excites me. It excites me that we're moving in this direction. And like you said earlier, there's a couple of things I wanted to piggyback on, and you're absolutely right that at the end of the day, if independent filmmakers can dish out a certain level of quality and a certain level of production value, and in a way that is, well, I mean, like you said, I mean, why not use this almost like, using these types of films? And not everybody's going to dish out that level of quality, but again, there's a number of factors for that. Not everybody has the access to the same resources and people that say you or I do. But at the end of the day, it's almost like it should be used as, it's almost like in sports where you draft people to, the big leagues, like, or something to that degree. Like you said, if you're dishing out this level of quality, why then not at the end of the day would you not say, hey, Vince, the rights for Friday the 13th have been settled. We really like what you did here. Because one of the things I really appreciated with Never Hike Alone, and there's a lot of things I did, but one of the things that I really appreciated was, and again, there may be a number of factors of why. Some of it may be a creative choice. Some of it may be out of your control. But I like and I say this not in a way that is a sort of slight to the quality, because the quality is fantastic. It looks pro. But I love and it could be because we're just following one person, but I love, because I do believe that Friday the 13th should be this kind of film. I love the independent, small, claustrophobic vibe that you were able to create with Never Hike Alone. And because to me, that's what Friday the 13th has always been about. It's always been about that isolation, seclusion. For me, it never really, I think that's one of the reasons why I appreciated the earlier Friday the 13th films, as I know they're a bit dated now, but was that sort of
grittiness.
Yes, the grittiness, not that Hollywood sheen and you color grade the crap out of it like it's, the Green Mile or something. I mean, it's really sort of just that independent grittiness, but yet the production value is solid and everything's well paced and put together, and it's totally pro, which is what Never Hike Alone is. But you had that little something there that I really, really appreciated. I think that maybe some people don't know how to articulate that, but I think that's why a lot of people really resonated with it.
Well, I think a lot of that's in the camera work.
Right. 100%.
I think it's a lot of it is understanding camera and how to tell story with picture.
Right.
And that's ultimately the director's job, is to tell the story with picture as best you can. And the director of photography. And I really come at it from a visual standpoint. It's a visual medium. Don't say it, show it. Starting there. And then if I have to say it, saying it in as little words as possible.
Right.
That's kind of the way I write. That's how I do it. I know other people. Tarantino writes 15 pages of monologues. I hate monologues. I think nobody, like, I know I spout off a lot, but nobody talks like that in public. It's like, I want characters that feel real and grounded, who feel like they're having real conversations and not over articulating a story point to the point where, why are you talking about this? You're only talking about this to tell the audience. Why don't you let the audience figure it out?
Right.
I try to write as if my audience is smart,
right,
and that they're paying attention. And if they pay close enough attention, they'll pick up on things. Right. And if not, they're going to be one of two characters. They're going to be the character in the scene that knows more than the other character and is leading them on, or they're going to be the other character in their scene who doesn't know what's going on. So in Never Hike Alone, the character in the scene was Camp Crystal Lake. It was a character. I was selling it and showing it and revealing it like a character, and it knows what it is, and a character who doesn't know what it is. And so the audience is smart if they recognize where the character is going through this character, this setting.
Right.
They recognize that he's going past boundaries that are bringing him closer and closer to Jason. And the more boundary he crosses, the more likely a chance that he's going to run into Jason.
That's right.
And you have a character of Kyle MacLeod, who is the noob, who doesn't know what he's doing. And he doesn't realize that he's just breaking down barriers and getting closer to these things because he thinks he's just looking at a historical site.
Right.
And so that's how I presented it in Never Hike Alone. And in Never Hike in the Snow, it's different. It's a different story. It's funny you mentioned that. Like, Never Hike Alone is an adventure movie. Never Hike in the Snow is almost like a cop procedural. It's a mystery.
That makes me more excited now.
It really is. I think what it is that when I was thinking about how I was going to continue the series, each of the episodes are like their own. It's like their own story. Not one repeats itself. There's not another Never Hike Alone in the bunch. There's not another film where it's about one guy, going into the camp and being completely isolated. Now we're doing a story about the town.
Right.
Now we're talking about the installation of the town and how the inner workings work. And so you have to meet the characters within the town and how events play out around an event like what happened to Kyle, but not the same outcome and not the same type of evidence of what's there. Never Hike Alone is...
Vince, man, you're getting me excited. This is great.
Yeah, so Never Hike Alone is the fulcrum point in the history of the history of Crystal Lake. Right. This is the moment that after all this time, Jason is finally going to reveal himself after being hidden for all these years. Right. Never Hike in the Snow is a story about how he's been able to remain hidden all this time and the impact that he has on the town, being this ghost-like figure that no one can find.
Now, do you actually, without giving anything away, because I don't want you to give anything away, but are you suggesting that in Never Hike in the Snow, we are going to find out in some way, shape, or form how and where he has been all these years?
Well, it's we have sort of revealed it in Never Hike Alone, and we've revealed it in Disappear.
Well, that's true.
So Disappear.
That's true. That's
actually, if you watch
the music video, which is good,
which is kind of like it's an example of it. We made that Disappear music video to make people understand the type of movie that we were about to make. Right. You're about to watch characters that go into Camp Crystal Lake and never make it out. That's what Never Hike Alone was always supposed to be about. It wasn't supposed to be the story about the survivors. It was always supposed to be about the people who went in and never came out, and these are their stories. Right. The people who are missing. Right. Quote unquote. The names on the board who you don't know about, the people who wandered into the forest and you never heard from again, because there was no way to say whether it was Jason or not, because the forest is a deadly animal in itself. It has, you can die out there in 1,000 different ways, and thousands of people go missing every year. 100%. I mean, that's the opening of Wolf Creek. They stole the opening that I wanted to use on Never Hike Alone. I literally had that written in the first draft of Never Hike Alone, and then I watched Wolf Creek for reference. Right. And I went, well, shit, I got to cross that out. Oh,
yep. Question for you. So Now, we know that Jason's base is Crystal Lake. We know that. That's where he sort of, if you find yourself stumbling upon Crystal Lake, there's a problem. But, and again, maybe you can't say anything, but is there, because I'm just fascinated by this, is there room for Jason, even though Crystal Lake is, that's his home, that's his home base, that's him. But is there, because Crystal Lake is situated against the backdrop of a rural, expanse that goes on for who knows how long. Is it possible that Jason doesn't just haunt Crystal Lake, but he's haunting the environment, this area of the woods? So although, if you find yourself at Crystal Lake, it's like, oh shit, we're in trouble. But maybe he's even just out there.
He's out there on the periphery. I think everything that consists of this side of the world in this town is that place where no one should go. No one should wander. He covers a certain distance. And he doesn't necessarily come to town unless he has a reason to, unless he's drawn to it and he's on a mission. And in the previous films, he has come to town. He was discovered at Crystal Lake. He was pushed from his home and he was sent on the run. And, it kind of reminded me of a story from, I think, 2012, where Big Bear went on lockdown because there was somebody who killed a couple cops and then started hiding in the cabins, a Big Bear going from cabin to cabin, keeping people hostage until they finally hunkered him down and they burnt the cabin down. And they shot a tear gas thing in there. It set on fire and he died in the fire.
Wow.
It's like a horror movie all in itself already, like the origin story. So that's really what happened in Friday the 13th. He was pushed from home to home to home. It started at the camp and it went away. He hit Packanack, then he hit Higgins Haven, and then he hit the Jarvis residence. And that's just getting closer and closer to town. And so that's one thing that I want to progress in the Never Hike series is as we get into the further episodes and we catch back up to where we are in Never Hike Alone, because even Never Hike Again, the next installment, starts before the events of Never Hike Alone. In fact, it's like Back to the Future 2 where they happen congruently and you actually kind of cross paths on a thing where you recognize like, oh, this is the moment, it's coming. Right. And then it leaves us off kind of in the same place that Never Hike Alone left us off. We just see we see Tommy's point of view. So it's like Andrew, like Kyle's movie was Never Hike Alone. Never Hike Again is Tommy's point of view of the same events and how he came to find Kyle and what happened outside of that van and what happens after.
So Never Hike Again, which is the sequel to Never Hike Alone, is happening essentially. The narrative is happening parallel, really, with Never Hike Alone. It's just from Tommy's perspective.
And there's moments you'll see our characters come close to crossing paths because you'll see it from Tommy's perspective, and then you'll understand because of the context of watching Never Hike Alone. Right there. And if you hadn't watched Never Hike Alone and you just stumbled on to Never Hike Again, it would still make sense because we reintroduce Kyle in a way that allows us to remember who he is. And if you watch the old film, you'll get the reference. And if you haven't, you'll understand who he is by what he does. And then we see we know what's coming for him, but now we're going to see how that affects Tommy. And that's part of it. And then the third installment, which is Jason Takes Crystal Lake, that's when we get to the moment where the seal has been ripped. We're back to the moment that everybody wanted to get to, the true sequel to Never Hike Alone. And that's now Jason has no longer a place to hide because he's been seen by multiple people. And this kid knows where he's been hiding, what he's got there. And the most important thing, and Jason basically Jason's in his last place. There's no other hiding places that he can go. And he knows that everyone's going to come and they're going to find him this time because Tommy's seen him, this kid's seen him, and now there's no hiding. I'm just going to go on a kamikaze mission to kill these guys because at least I'm going to protect something that's sacred to me back at the camp.
Of course.
So
what I really like
becomes the body count film and he starts murdering everybody in town. And that's when the presence starts overlooming the town because Tommy has done basically what Sheriff Rick Colon, our other character in the film, has been warning him that
from Friday the 13th, part 6.
Yeah. And so, Vinny Guastafar has come back to reprise the role of Sheriff Rick Colon. He's a big part of Never Hike in the Snow. I mean, he's an essential key. We're going to get reintroduced to Sheriff Rick. And he's going to be older, wiser. He's still Rick. But you're going to see a different beast. And Vinny brings an amazing performance, a heartfelt performance. And that's one of the things I wanted to bring up in this is take the acting level up like a bunch of notches and really show like craft and story.
Right.
But Vinny's warning to Tom in this series is that we don't poke the bear. We haven't seen it, so it's not there. And as long as we stay out of there,
right,
we're good.
We're good.
We don't have
That's
any
right.
problems.
Right.
And Tommy's aspect is eventually something or someone is going to come along and the bear is going to get drawn out whether you like it or not.
Right.
So maybe we should go up there and attack the bear while it's sleeping.
Right.
While we
take care of it while we can.
Because
That's
if
right.
it comes out and it's on the rampage,
yeah,
we're not going to be able to stop it. And so Tommy thinks he can do it, but he can't find Jason.
Right.
And Vinny doesn't want to do anything about it, or Rick doesn't want to do anything about it. And the only thing that is messing up his plan is that Tommy son of a bitch who keeps going up there and poking around. And so
now, maybe you can't answer this, but have Tommy and Rick, have they seen each other since Friday the 13th 6, or is this? Yeah, they have. So they're very familiar with each other.
Like Tommy is now the town's crazy Ralph. He's a pain in the ass.
I love it.
Shows up at stuff and like is spouting off about wild theories.
Right.
And Rick doesn't want to hear it. And Rick runs this peaceful town. He's finally got it under control. He inherited it from, Garrus.
Yes.
And he's got this sweet gig. He runs this town. He bosses everybody around and he does whatever he wants and nothing happens there because everyone is just so like, you either live, like if you live there, you've lived there forever and you keep to yourself.
Right.
So, he lives the life of luxury and his only problem is Tommy. He keeps the kids in line, does that stuff, but he's a decent sheriff. It's just this one guy who's just a huge pain in his butt.
Right. Fascinating. This is I'm thoroughly thrilled that you are giving such juicy details, but yet at the same time remaining ambiguous to allow you've shot to sort of speak for itself. One thing I want to mention too, which really excites me, and again, I can really see your passion. I mean, I can see it in the way you're talking about it. You are genuinely committed and emotionally involved with this story that just sounds so. It sounds like such a great, not just a great. It sounds a great follow up to a Friday the 13th. Or to the Friday the 13th story, and I can absolutely I can feel your passion through the camera here. I can absolutely feel it. Well, and one thing you said that I wanted to piggyback on because it's totally true, and because sometimes it can go the other way. There's a saying, as I'm sure you know, there's the movie you write or envision, and then there's the movie you shoot, and then the movie that you actually release. And in most cases that's true. And it sounds to me, by the way you're talking about Never Hike in the Snow, it sounds to me that although maybe some things might have been a bit different, you are thoroughly satisfied with what you are very excited with what you shot and the vision that you had going into the production. Again, you can say if I'm right or wrong, but the vision you had going into principal photography is pretty much what you walked away with, and that's really exciting.
Well, it was a story that was in my head for over a year and a half. Same thing with Never Hike Again. I mean, same thing with the whole series. I know I've watched and replayed this entire thing in my head 1,000 times. And you say an extension, really what happened to fans, I feel, and I don't know if other fans feel this way, but I felt like the series was on a trajectory. Yeah. And then they started bringing they brought, I'll forgive I love part 6. That's my favorite one. And then at 7, 8, people will say at part 4, it turned off the rails. I would say at part 7, because I think part 6 brought in such a great aspect to the series about the undead nature, about all that stuff, really brought Jason into that's the Jason we know and love. But story wise, we never saw it come to other than the ending of part 6, which was undone. There was never a conclusion. There wasn't that resolution that we can all go, okay, that's how Jason got it. That's that was the key to this. That was the thing that finally put him down. And I think this, for me, I'm ultimately trying to get to that place where there is a peaceful resolution at the end of this movie. Not to say a peaceful resolution between the characters, but for the fans to say, if we're going to watch Jason go, that's how I'll watch him go. And see that, for the first time ever in a Friday the 13th, that I mean, not maybe in one Friday the 13th, but over a series of Friday the 13th installments, a growing continuity and connection of character that doesn't get changed.
Right.
That characters don't change, the actors don't change, the costumes don't change,
Right.
the setting doesn't change, that everything is kept consistent and there's a consistency through to complete the narrative. And I think that what we got was 7 and 8, which didn't complete the narrative. Jason Goes to Hell, which took a shot at completing the narrative, but missed it by a long shot because it wasn't what fans found to be a satisfying conclusion. This is not how they wanted their final Jason film to be. Then they made Jason X, not a satisfying conclusion for how the series is to be ended. Freddy versus Jason, it's a one-off film. And then 2009, which was supposed to reboot it, but ultimately failed in becoming a new franchise, which was the goal. I mean, Platinum Dunes wanted to make 4 or 5 Friday the 13th. They only made 1.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started to get into, like, I kept asking why. I want more Friday the 13th. I want more Friday the 13th as a fan. And I started to realize, like, the things that held kind of the franchise back. The reason why it wasn't doing well in 2009 and why it didn't grasp on that audience, because it was a film built for an audience of another time. And it wasn't fitting into the narrative of where horror films were going as far as the level of quality that they had to hit from a storytelling standpoint. You couldn't get away with the surface level characters anymore. You couldn't get away with the formulaic, assembly of the film. You had to do something that, like, reinvigorated your love for it in a different way.
Right.
And in my head, on paper, that wasn't Never Hike Alone. It was like a well-written story that had connectivity and, like, had legs to stand on from a franchise to grow from. And what I discovered along the way is, my only choice was to make Never Hike Alone many, many years later, is that it was more of just paying attention to detail and figuring out the things that make Jason scary, focusing there and making everything less of a priority. So yeah, we shot scenes in Never Hike.
Oh, Vinny, are you still there? Oh, wait. You froze on me. You froze on me. 1 second. Vinny froze on me, folks. Oh, let's see if I can get him back. Not sure what happened there. Oh, no. Let's see if I can get him back, folks. Oh, are you there? Oh, 1 second here, folks. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, he's not there. Vinny, 1 sec. Oh, there he is. There he is. I think he's... Oh, there he is. He's back. He's back. What? Chrome kicked you out. Okay. 1 second. Let me bring you back into the... let me bring it back into the fold here. D. Is it this one? Oh, maybe it's V. Maybe it's just V. I don't know what happened there. There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry,
you're back.
Guys.
You're
I'm
back.
But anyway, what was I saying?
You were talking about you were talking about just the importance of how the Friday the 13th Part 9, Part 9 from 2009 was not sort of what that was for an older time, and how you were excited about bringing Jason back, but in a different way,
Yeah, so a lot of fans really like that film. I would say it was a 50-50 split on that, which is pretty typical for a Friday the 13th film. Right. But it didn't get new audiences. Like, new audiences just came, it's the same.
I feel, sorry, Vince, I feel like the mic, are we coming through your camera mic or the webcam mic?
I wonder if it's coming through the webcam mic.
I think it might be the webcam. Because it doesn't sound like it's your mic.
How about now?
That's much better.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, I had to switch it on this one because I switched to a new browser. So yeah, it didn't quite stand on its own legs. And I thought that, like, so one thing that I noticed, and I didn't realize what I did, but here's what I did, is that, and I'm not comparing myself to Hitchcock when I do this. So they made Psycho in the 1960s, and then they made a bunch of sequels in the 80s, Psycho 2, 3, and 4, which were all different films, but very much the things that brought it down is that it suffered from the expectations of being an 80s horror slasher. So it was doing the things that Hitchcock didn't do, which was put nudity in, doing the things that Hitchcock didn't do, which putting excessive gore in. And so it it kind of cheapened it. It cheapened Psycho to a level that it was playing on those levels and not being in the Hitchcockian way. And
Right.
so, but which is funny because, did I just get,
Wait.
are you getting a weird?
I am all of a sudden. I don't know why. 1 second here.
I think
Wait, try again.
Wait, let me do this. How about now?
Hello?
But I think I just muted everybody.
I wonder why that is. 1 sec. Hang on. Why are you echoing? Try again.
I'm messing it up.
What's hang on. Why is that?
Yeah, it's weird. Another window popped up in my thing. I didn't.
Another window popped up in your thing?
Yeah, like another window popped up in here that wasn't there before.
Oh, wait a second.
Sorry, everybody. Technical.
1 second, folks. Hang on. Technical stuff. We'll try and get this organized.
What if I do this? No.
Let me hang on.
How about now? Did that do it?
No. 1 second. I'm going to disconnect the. Oh, I see. Maybe it's this. Hang on. Oh, wait. Wait, are you there? You're still echoing. Why are you still? Okay, you come in and come out. Okay, sounds good. Okay. Oh, wait, are you there? Okay, wait. I think that might have worked. 1 second. In the Google. In your Chrome.
That's what happened. So now I'm back. Okay, so I never left.
Okay. No, you didn't. You're back. All right, here we go.
Anyway, sorry, guys. This is just...
That's all right. Hey.
It's early morning out here. I'm sipping my coffee. But yeah, no, it's just that, and so what I tried to do was suck those things out of Friday the 13th to find out what's there as like, if you just focused on the things that like how a Hitchcock would approach Friday the 13th, taking it seriously and trying to tell a real story by analyzing the story as it has progressed over 12 films and looking at the elements that fans respond to and what I respond to, and then how that's executed on a level that actually goes, all right, let's not just like make the first draft. Maybe we should rewrite this a few times and think about how we can connect it between not just this entry, but 2 other entries that are coming after it or 3 other entries. Like, where's the arc? And do everything that I had learned. And this is not like revolutionary stuff. This is just what I was doing for animated feature films for my everyday job. So on the side, I would just chat out outlines of Friday the 13th films that would have series ending arcs, like big moves over 3 different films to figure out like what elements carry over and what elements create continuity issues or logic issues. And how could you fix those issues if you came up with an explanation that actually helped settle it in, or if you just say, you know what, like I did, I don't say anything about Camp Forest Green. Both my characters are from a movie where Camp Forest Green is the main setting, and I don't say anything about it because no one cares about Camp Forest Green.
Right.
And so sometimes you have to just eliminate it completely and treat it as something different. And it's like, I think that I can't say that Never Hike Alone is a direct sequel to any of it because I do that. I think what it is that this is the universe where it took all the other films and actually played it out in a series that had a better legs to stand on. I would have told all the other films in a different way, knowing that if this is where the series was going, this is how it should start. Looking at its ending and then giving it an equal beginning rather than a beginning that wasn't built for franchise potential and ended up having to like really jam in a piece that didn't fit to make it work. Right. And we all enjoy it. Right. But now, many years later thinking like, well, what if you actually cared? What if you actually like tried? It wasn't just like a movie that Paramount was spitting out to make money and they hated it. So they were hiring whoever they could to just make the next one. And all they had to do was follow a formula.
Well, because you're showing,
Yeah. No, now just basically, it's just the final thing. It's just that now telling story and telling character and approaching it like you're making an animated film, because everything in animation is story and character.
That's right.
And you spend 3 years working on projects before you can make them because all those things have to be correct. You're not allowed to just go shoot it. You have to do it in the computer. As you know, you do the voices for it. So it's a tremendous process. So taking that same process and doing it to Friday the 13th would turn it into a better product and it will have a wider appeal because it's not just about the formula, it's about story and character. And 100%. Then we also get to enjoy the Jason aspect of it because that's folded into it.
Yeah, 100%. Look, there are so many. I hope there are aspiring filmmakers in the chat room right now. There are people that are listening very carefully to what Vince is saying, because there's a lot of things that Vince has said that that I have said here on the channel, and that I cannot and it's so great to have somebody like Vince on saying it, or Vinny, excuse me, Vinny, we're on the list here. Vinny, hey. So important, because I mean, one of the most important things you have said here, which I cannot stress enough, is the absolute most important thing about any movie is your story, your character and your story. And if you don't have that, you know, it's the one thing that people should be focusing on, which is why, you know, it doesn't hurt to, I mean, yes, can you overthink a script? Can you overthink, you know, a narrative? Sure. But at the end of the day, you know, working hard on that story and the structure and the character is never a bad thing. It's so important to work so hard on having something that is you know, a very strong foundation. That is you know, your foundation to the whole thing, and
being open to being challenged.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the key. That's the balance and key to a point. So you doing your due diligence so you can defend your point of view.
Yeah.
But knowing that when you take it to your director of photography or an actor or your editor, that they're going to come at it with a different perspective, and that within their respective field, they are smarter than you. And so if they're suggesting something, you better absolutely know exactly what they're talking about, or take their advice and know that, like, okay, this isn't what I intended to do. Like you're saying, you write it a certain way, you shoot it a certain way, and you cut it a certain way.
Right.
When you say, like, I had this idea in the script, well, guess what? You can write whatever you want in the script for the camera to do 50 million different things. But on the day, you have to get that camera to do those things. And if you can't get it to do it, or you don't have time to shoot 10 setups and you're going to do your thing in 4, well, you got to rethink your plan. And so it's having a plan to know that you stand on a base of knowledge, and then also ready to listen to what your crew is saying and make good decisions to say, no, not being like every idea that comes your way is a great one.
Right.
But knowing how to identify when someone is going to make your film better, and then when to defend your idea when it has to be done a certain way because you're aiming for a specific target that they might not be aware of. So you have to get them closer to the goal. And it's a give and take.
Right. Again, another some great valuable advice to being open. Because at the end of the day, look, I mean, you know, as I'm sure you would agree, filmmaking is a collaborative team effort, and everybody is ideally, of course, if you're working, you know, and everybody gets along, everybody wants whatever project it is that you are doing. Everybody wants the best for the project. And if somebody has an idea or has a solution to a problem that ultimately will improve the shot or the scene or the moment or the piece of dialogue, whatever it is, although it may not be maybe exactly what you envisioned, you know, as the producer, the director, you have to be open to working with that, and being open to those ideas. But like you said, if there's something that you're set on for a specific reason, that's different. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, some valuable advice here to anybody in the chat room, and even the things that you're talking about. I mean, the process, the filmmaking process that you're talking about, and all the things that you have gone through, even yourself with Never Hike Alone and this Never Hike series, let's say, it is very apparent that you're not just passionate about it, you are prepared with it. You have been thinking and living and breathing this, you know, and writing these things down and coming up with an entire arc, not just over one movie, but over 4 films, I guess, or 5 films.
It would ultimately it'd be the length of a feature film,
right?
But split up into 4 episodes,
right? Exactly. And but it's so apparent that you have thought about these things. Again, I cannot stress enough how important. Listen to what Vince is saying and how important it is. The process of being prepared, knowing your story, knowing your arcs, works, writing things down, being open to, have suggestions, obviously. But I am thoroughly, not that I didn't think you were. I mean, the product speaks for itself, but I'm thoroughly impressed with how prepared you are with this. So listen, never hike in the snow. Do we have it now? Obviously, it's moving into post-production now. Do we have an idea of when about ballpark this you plan on releasing this?
I kind of have an idea of what I want to do. I just don't want to announce it yet until I've talked to more people. And I have made some arrangements because I want to do it like I did last time. I want to have a theatrical premiere that is the launch party for us hitting the go button on YouTube, which I think is great. I think the first people, like the first audience I want to see it with is a live audience that's never seen it before, who's going to experience it for the first time, knowing that while we're watching it, there are hopefully thousands, hundreds of thousands of people watching it online at the same time.
Right.
And then going into the same thing of seeing the feedback and start to get ready for people how are prepared to it, how it affects people, having having a live Q&A. Right. And being able to do what we did last time, maybe a step up, maybe we can get live cameras there or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Do a YouTube broadcast or whatever. But that takes work. And so right now we have a lot of work to do in post. Like the editor's still assembling the film. We finished 2 weekends ago on the 13th, the weekend before the 13th. So March 9th was our last day. Yeah. And he just got that footage back, had to organize it all, had to put it all together. Works a full-time job, only works on it after work. So I'm probably going to look at it this week at some point for the first time, the assembly.
Very cool.
Really just been going through, like we had some behind the scenes that was shot. So I keep going back to the behind the scenes because I can see the monitor, and looking at shots and being like, okay, yeah, I got to go with the third take on that one. And okay.
That's how you're committed and you were meant to do this, because I laugh not in it, but I laugh because I totally could see myself doing. If that's all I had access to and I didn't I didn't have the footage, you're looking at the behind the scenes, looking at yourself, looking at the monitor, just to fill that need of kind of like, okay, yeah, no, I think I'm gonna, so sort of what to have in your mind as you go to the editor.
Like, okay, let me look at the angles that I chose here again. Like, where should I cut in and out? Because there were because it's times on set where you think, like in the dialogue, I'm going to cut in and out. Right. But on set, there are times where I'm like, oh, this shot's living longer than I thought it was going to be. This is beautiful. I'm going to live here for a little bit.
Right.
And having to remember where that is, so I don't give the editor old instructions.
Right.
And I mean, I haven't seen anything, but we've been going back and forth. I mean, he writes and says, hey, I saw this and blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts on that? And we talk about, how things are supposed to be assembled together. There are certain scenes that I left that, like, there's things that I know that I shot that if you didn't know what you're doing, because I changed things on the fly, that is going to be confusing. Like I changed the whole entire opening to a scene on the day after we did rehearsals. Right. So we did this rehearsal, this great scene between Vincent Guastafara and Anna Campbell. Right. And it's a very emotional scene. It's a pivotal scene in the movie. It's something that I think you've never seen in a Friday before. Right. It's like an acting class. It's amazing.
Awesome.
These two having this scene. And so when we were rehearsing, I was a big proponent of the emotion of the scene and really pushing that forward. When I saw what they brought to it and I experienced it from their lips and I heard them say the words, I said, okay, I want to pull this scene back. I want to start a little earlier in this conversation. So we're going to come up with stuff on the fly, but we're going to cover it a certain way. So as this action is going on, we're actually looking at something else. Right. And so working with the DP and saying, hey, we got to get this coverage. We got to get this stuff to cover this moment that we're not going to shoot because of setup times, but we're going to cover in dialogue so we hear it. And having to explain that to an editor, being like, hey, listen, you're going to get this and you're going to see this empty frame for a long time, but there are people having a conversation, play that conversation, and then show these images and then come into that shot and do it. And so like explaining things like that, going back and forth as scenes come in, like what my shot sequence is. I was like, hey, you got 4 choices here. One of them's a safety angle, but use these 3 shots and go like this to this moment, this to this moment, that to that moment, because it's a key thing that I want done. But the rest is up to you to make decisions and build the scene. But this moment should flow like this. And if that formula doesn't work, and my theory is wrong, let me know, and maybe try this shot, and we'll go to a couple other things.
Right.
So it's having that foreknowledge of kind of being able to guide him. And I like, and right now I'm just like itching to get into editorial and just watch it. And like, because I want to start putting music and sound on it.
Of course, because that's when it really comes to life, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. This is really exciting. I was excited for this before, but getting the opportunity to talk to you now is even more exciting. I'm even more excited, for this movie. And what's so good too is that you guys were able to, very lucky, able to sort of get that shot right on the cusp of this whole COVID-19 thing. That just sort of, I mean, I can only imagine that if you had planned to go to camera now, you wouldn't be able to do it.
I mean, if we had done anything now, which say it was like we saw a bunch of snowstorms were coming for this part of the year, which they are. Yeah, of course. And said, okay, we're going to go for there. That's the best time to go. And then this happened. We'd have to wait a whole another year to shoot. Yeah. Or if we got everything except for the last week, and then we had to cancel it all because of COVID. Yeah. Oh, that would have been the nail in the coffin. I think people would have understood, but
because
that's the danger of filmmaking.
100%. And you know, we were going to launch our Indiegogo campaign for It's Me, Billy next month, but we've decided to obviously push that under the circumstances. And I can only imagine, you know, the feeling you had of just completing it and being like, oh my God, like, thank goodness we were able to get this done now. I mean, I can imagine that was a real sort of, whew, you know, because like you said, I mean, you'd have to wait, you know, another year. And I mean, nobody would fault you for that. I mean, it's it's out of our control. Yeah.
I mean, we're all being told to stay home. It's
exactly.
You know, well, I mean, the funny thing was that I finished Never Hike in the Snow, and the next weekend I went up and I helped the guys at Jason Rising do their release. Their
great segue.
Preview. Thank you.
Right. Yes, because I wanted to ask you about the other projects that you're involved in. One that I'm involved in with you, but also you just released a trailer. Yes, exactly. You just released a trailer for a film that you are helping to produce. Right? Tell us about that, because it looks really cool, man. I got to say.
So Ptosis is a film that's directed by a good friend of mine, Austin Boning, who's a visual effects and previs artist for The Third Floor. So he's been designing the camera work for films like Godzilla.
Amazing.
What else did he work? He's worked on X-Men. He won an award for designing the sequence where Quicksilver runs around in slow motion and pushes everything out of the way for people. And the first time Quicksilver does it, he was the guy who designed the camera work for it and built the path that they ended up building the film on.
Right.
And so he's been an aspiring director, and he's, you know, been pushing to direct at his company, but like the opportunities haven't been there. And he saw what I did on Never Hike Alone and said, well, why can't I make an independent film? You know, he's been doing a directing class, he's been writing, and he had this script and he was really passionate about it. And I know he's got the chops. Yeah. So he made really good friends with my co-producer, Kyle Klein, who has worked on everything Never Hike Alone related. And he kind of approached Kyle like, hey, do you think you can help me put this together? And at first it was the two of them kind of like putting it together off to the side. And as I came off of Never Hike Alone, I said, well, what do you guys need? And how can, let's do it as a Whomp Stomp production, an original production, and put it on the channel. And so it started, that's when we're like, okay, if everybody likes Never Hike Alone, let's do something original and see if they support it. And we tried to raise $15,000 and only raised about $8,000. Right. There wasn't a lot. There were, I mean, we probably wouldn't have got $8,000 without Never Hike Alone.
Sure.
It gave us that boost to go, okay, now we have $8,000. Right. Let's do a short and let's do it. And, you know, we just released the trailer for it on the YouTube channel, Whomp Stomp Film. I mean, YouTube/Whomp Stomp Films. Yep. It's called Ptosis. It's 45 seconds long. It's
the trailer is 45 seconds long.
Yeah, the trailer is 45 seconds long. The film itself is about 13 minutes. Right now it's doing its festival runs. We're putting it through all the shorts at some of the festivals. We played Telluride Horror Show. We made it to Panic Fest. We were going to do Horror Hound Horror Hound Cincinnati, but we unfortunately had to delay that because of COVID, and now it's going to be in May. And we're up for several other festivals. So we can't put it online yet, but we want to let people know who invested in it and people who are following us that we have completed it. It looks amazing. We finally got the final pieces for it just now. We've been have been screening kind of like a working print of it that had like stand-in titles, but now we got our final titles and and it's like kind of the final export of it, which is really nice. So we'll probably release that sometime in October around Halloween time at a nice time to see it, or maybe sometime this summer if Austin's getting itchy. Right. And kind of let people see that we can do original content too. And our goal was to get our camera work up, to get our overall production value up. And I think that it is a nice step up from Never Hike Alone from a camera and production level. And it's a different type of story. It's more of a ghost haunt story and a thriller than it is, what Never Hike Alone was, which is an adventure film. So it's nice. It's a nice different approach to what we're doing there. So yeah, we're super proud of that. And, it's been doing really well in the festivals. It's been well recognized. And it just shows that we can do original content too. And we're trying to produce more original content. Like I just released a script onto the festival circuit called Ghost Chicken, which is making its way around.
I saw the post for that. Hilarious.
Yeah, it's a fun little short about a vegan restaurant that's haunted by the ghost of a chicken. and
I love it.
Yeah, and so it's this fun little script, and it's got a good message in it, and it's I think it's like 20 pages.
Does the chicken have a name, like a human name, like
it's this mystery. The film's a little mystery. It's like a little Nancy Drew. It's like a modern day Nancy Drew set in the world of a vegan restaurant. It's really funny.
I think the chicken should have like if it did have a name, it should be like Glenn or Kevin. Something like that. Gerda. Yeah, that's right. Folks, I'm going to put the link to, is it Pathosis? Mm-hmm. Pathosis. I'm just going to drop the link here to the trailer to Pathosis in the chat room. Here you go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, wait a minute. No, let me get it right. There we go. There it goes. That is the link to Pathosis. Check it out. 45 seconds long. Original piece of work here. Playing the obviously doing the festival circuit right now, but check it out. It looks really good. It looks really creepy. I got to say that I won't spoil it, but that final shot, I'm like, that's well done. That's really well done. Yeah,
that was like one of the things. I mean, that's a mix of that is practical. And it's a mix of VFX in there just to paint some things out and enhance some stuff. But it's really like us trying to tweak that in. Right. It's like adding that to the repertoire of so like we produced this film. It required us to learn some new skills or add something that we hadn't done in Never Hike Alone, which was high level VFX. We had done some paint out work and some little fixes here and there, but nothing that was like amazing. It's not like we had like a digital lake or like anything in that realm. It was all like simple fixes that you could do in online post. Right. This was actually VFX, and Austin does a lot of the VFX himself. We had some help from Cortland Gordon, a few other artists that we had to go out and hire. So it extended a wing of Whomp Stomp Films to now have access to visual effects artists.
That's right.
So now when we go forward with new projects, now we're standing on the shoulders of VFX artists and a new sound designer.
You're assembling a team.
Yeah, but again, we brought Ryan Perez-Apple to do the score who did the score for Never Hike Alone. He came back and did the score for Pathosis and the score is amazing, because he's amazing. And so we're building our team, we're building our squad to take on bigger and better projects. So eventually, we're doing hopefully real Friday the 13th projects, but we now have the ability to do our own. So say when I do approach Ghost Chicken, and so Pathosis has made $8,000, maybe our next original production can make somewhere close to 20.
That's right.
And that might give me enough to make a film like Ghost Chicken.
That's right. Like Gerda. That's right.
Yeah. Gerda the Ghost Chicken.
Gerda the Ghost Chicken.
And do that and make something completely different because it's a comedy. It's a horror comedy mystery. And it's a lot of fun. It pokes fun at the modern world.
I'm just gonna see Gerda now. That's all I'm gonna see.
and it's fun. And it's just like this, so it allowed me to express that.
Live action or animated?
Live action.
I can't wait.
I mean, it could be animated. Who knows? Maybe it's an animated film that we do because it would work in either realm.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. That's so
maybe.
Funny.
I mean, I'd be able to produce it. I know exactly how to do it. I could go get really great artists to storyboard and cut it. It'd be great. Maybe I should.
It becomes a fucking series, Vince. It becomes a series.
It is a series. I can't because I would spoil the ending if I told you how the series.
Okay.
But there is a series idea to it that it continues on, and that Yeah, and that it has like an extended thing.
This is amazing.
But-
This is so great.
But we're also working on. So I was associated with Jason Rising, which is another Friday the 13th fan
Right.
film. James Sweet and Carl Winnerie from Portland and Seattle, not Seattle, Washington, and just on the border over Portland,
Yeah.
respectively. They're shooting up there that film. I came on as a producer and co-writer because I saw their trailer and I was really inspired by it. Like I inspired them, they inspired me because I was like, I like what you guys are doing. You're like, I recognize a lot of things from Never Hike Alone in your passion and your storytelling abilities.
Yeah.
What do you guys got? How can I help? Looked at what they had, helped them smooth some stuff out, made them see kind of said, hey, look at all these opportunities you might have. What do you think about doing this? What do you think about doing that? This is how I think you could expand your brand and expand your story.
Right.
And they loved it. They brought me on. I helped them recraft it. I helped them that opening scene. I was up there for the shooting, helping them kind of get their set procedures in order and making, because they knew what they were doing, but it was just one of those things of like, okay, let me just
need some tweaking.
Let me kick your tires for a little bit and, help you guys get shaped up and think about like, if you want to shoot fast and on this budget, here's ways to cut down your time.
Right.
And we had a fun time shooting that opening scene. I think we did it in 2 days. It was, we had a cool time doing it. We had to dig that grave. So we're really excited about that. Then of course, Cecil approached me about doing Dylan's New Nightmare a while back at like Mad Monster, Arizona, when he first wanted to approach Miko and started building that team. And, Cecil's done a really great, and again, it's like James and Carl do a really great job of running their own shop, running their own project. And then when they have a question, they come to me, or if I see something, I contact them and say, hey, did you notice this? Or what's going on with this?
That's right.
How can I help? What is going on? And offering advice, and then being, it's nice. It's kind of like it's true blue producing. And a lot of it's creative producing and keeping things and always trying to, because you know how it is when you're on a project and you're stagnant and you're going through it 1,000 times, you can't think anymore. Like you know all the beats, it plays for you, but you don't know if it plays for anybody. And so I get to become that sounding board where when they come up with an idea, they have to get it past me. They have to, like, I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to challenge them as if I'm an executive in the room, poking and prodding all of their ideas to make sure that the whole thing doesn't crumble. And it's not to do it to be a dick. It's not to do it to be mean. It's to do it to train them. And to be like, get ready for it. Because if you think I'm bad, wait till you get those comments on YouTube. Because they're going to, if I notice it right now, they're going to notice it. Eventually someone's going to point it out. So explain this to me. And there's things that like, I remember I brought something up to Cecil about Dylan's New Nightmare that I was like, I know you want to do this, but I'm not a fan. And I kind of see this as if like I'm coming at it from this perspective. Right. And Freddie doesn't understand this thing. Why would he do it this way? And Cecil going, well, actually, in this film, he is aware of it. And this is how he would be able to do that. And I went, oh, okay. Then if you solve that logic issue, then we should do it. Then that makes sense. I'm trying to keep you from making like, you want people, there's two values of logic in film. There's logic, and there's entertainment logic. Right. And so I'm all a proponent for entertainment logic because it can save a film when you don't have to think about why aren't they using their cell phone? Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing it? It's just, there's a reason we're not going to stop the movie to say, oh, I don't have service. Right. It just ruins the moment type stuff. I'm not saying it's that, but it's just an example. Right. But being able to say like, don't worry about this, go to the entertainment value, but then saying like, okay, now we're relying too much on entertainment value. Give me something that in a previous scene, the phone got smashed. Don't do the same thing of not having the thing. Give it an excuse that they pull it out to use it and it gets slapped out of their hand. Every time a character goes to do something that is the right, like, what was I watching? Return of the Living Dead. I was watching Return of the Living Dead the other night. And one thing I never noticed about that film until now as a writer says every time the characters think they get ahead, they fall 2 steps behind. Every time a character has a good idea, it turns into a bad idea. Right. And my favorite line in the movie is Tom Matthews going, "You mean the movie lied?" And it's just like, I watched that film the other night almost like it was for the first time because I hadn't looked at it this way. I hadn't looked at it with this new set of eyes.
Through a different lens. Yeah.
I was laughing the whole time, and I just, like Bert, he's like, "Yes, we're in the clear," and I'm like, "You are not in the clear, sir. This is about 10 times worse." Right. Like that body's going up into the clouds, and those zombies are coming in.
Right.
the worst situation possible. And I love that the film just continually keeps getting worse and worse for the characters.
Right.
And so I just thought that was such a great example of, yes, you have characters making the right decisions and doing the best decision, and it's still not working out.
Right.
And so I always challenge the teams that I work with to not go for the easy solutions, to not overlook a problem with logic, to actually confront it and then come up with a reason why, even though that is the idea that they should make, why it's a bad idea. Make it backfire on them and write smarter. And so, and that elevates the material, and that causes us to, or, going in and looking at a script and saying, how can we say this in 2 less pages? Because this scene will drag out an editorial and we'll be 5 minutes into this scene and we'll have not left the setting. Right. How many setups are you going to do for this to make this interesting? Or how can we get to the nitty gritty of this conversation without having to go through long bouts of, I think independent films do this a lot. There's just long bouts of just talking and talking and talking and talking. Right. It's a talking head film. Right. And you need to be able to make that interesting or get to the point and move on. And so some people might like that. If you're a Quentin Tarantino and you can write the dialogue that keeps us engaged for that long without having to leave the scene, then that's that. But if you're not Quentin Tarantino, I'm going to let you know it. And I'm going to say, I don't know. I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Right. Because what I try to do is I try to go into certain scenes for people and find out where their idea is best represented and then push everything else out of the way. So it doesn't get lost in the minutia of a long scene where somebody might have stopped paying attention, but that you're focused on what you're there for. And then you know what the in is and you know what the out is. And sometimes you can extend it or shorten it. But if you recognize that in each scene and how it's progressing the story forward, then you're doing what you want to do, and that's how you're going to get good results. If not, you're just going to get a bunch of like patting yourself on the back because you can write a lot of words, and that doesn't translate in film. It translates in books and translate in the written language when you're reading it, but when it's coming out verbally, it's just gonna lose people.
More often than not, and something that I've noticed, and even when writing the script for It's Me, Billy, which is about 20, it's about as long as Never Hike in the Snow, actually. It's about 22, 23 pages. Yeah. And the first time I sat down with Bruce to write it, I think it was up at like 27 pages or something like that. And we were like, no, this is far too long. I mean, this is far too long. And we... and I tell people all the time, if you're going to tackle, don't worry about self-editing on the first, just get everything, down and then go back.
Just get them out.
Right. Just get it out, get all the verbal out and then just go back. And there were many points, like there's a couple of dialogue scenes in our film where, we were able to cut down, still have the same impact, get to the point faster, and still sort of make it, and it feels much more organic and complete rather than this drawn out sort of thing. And we were finding that. And there was a couple of times where I was like, and he's like, dude, I don't think we need that. I think we can say it like this, and it still makes the most sense, and it's more concise. It's still the same impact. And that kind of stuff happens all the time. And you're right. It's important because of the medium for which you are presenting it in. I mean, unless it's some serious drama or something where there is going to be a lot of exposition and dialogue, but in terms of this, more often than not, you're right. I think people tend to overthink and over want to, and again, as you've said it, and you're absolutely right. It's show, don't tell, and as much as you can. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of telling, but
and
as
try
much
to put
as you
conversations on the move.
Right.
Don't just stand there the whole time. Like if you're going to have a long conversation, like have it take place between, who does this really well is Nolan. Christopher Nolan does a really great job of having Like I've been watching, I'm a big fan of Nolan, but the more I watch him, the more I start to realize what he does, which is he takes these scenes where he has characters in all these different emotions and they're going all these different directions, but all they're doing is just giving story juice. They're just saying, they're just explaining stuff and just arbitrarily explaining the film to you as they're doing the objects and making it interesting. Because if it's two characters just sitting in chairs having that conversation, it's not engaging. But you're watching what they're doing, and there's so much information coming into your brain about how it's progressing character through visuals that the words are just accents, kind of just being like a little accent or a little exclamation point on the action that they're performing. So it's a nice way to do it. It's a good way to lead visually your audience and keep them engaged, but also give them information needed to understand the plot or understand the motivation. So it's going there. And I think that's it's a really smart technique. Sometimes it's a little, I almost find it comical how procedural it is that he does it sometimes.
Right.
But I appreciate it. I understand I finally understand why he does it the way he does.
Right. Right. And not every film or story, lends itself to that. I mean, again, you have to make the choice based on, the information you're trying to convey and the setting and the scene but Vince is right. You know what I mean? The crux of the point is you have to make these conversations visually interesting to the viewer as best you can. That doesn't mean that every conversation you have in your movie is on the move, but certainly you'll know certainly if you have scenes where characters are seated or at a restaurant or at a, whatever it is, try not to get those scenes too long.
Give them something to do. If they're at a restaurant, they should be eating. They should have food in front of them. That's right. Order. They should be, it's like
that's right. Like,
it's not just an isolated event where there's nothing going. Like it's like almost putting it in a bubble. You know what I mean? If if they're in a house, they don't have to like go on a journey together to have a conversation. They could literally be within a room where somebody's sitting down and then they stand back up and they start walking around because they start to feel uncomfortable, or they go to pour themselves a drink. And you always it gives you I always think it's a kind of a staple move. It's like, they're going to go pour themselves a drink. Well, this is a great moment in the conversation where the person gets up because they're starting to feel uncomfortable. They go to pour themselves a drink. The other character says something really important and they stop pouring the drink.
Right.
And they put it down.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and they take the shot first, and then they start talking again.
Right.
And within that, you've just said so much.
Yes, 100%.
The other character has asked a question, and the character has given you an answer with their performance.
Right.
And then they sit down, and you understand where they are emotionally, and they're about to deliver a piece of information, which is really important. It's going to hit a little bit harder because it's been accentuated with the action that they've been given, rather than just sitting there and giving a reply.
That's right.
So that's where
those are the nuances that are so important.
That's my journey as a director, is finding those and understanding those and researching those moments in films that allows you to do that. And so that's where you look for when you're in a scene and you can analyze it and you realize you got two people sitting across from each other and you think you might be a little bit too long, that you might be here in this moment.
Yeah.
How can I make these characters move around?
Right.
What's in their scene for them to do? Or can I put them in a different scene?
Oh no. I lost Vince again. Let's see if we can get him back, folks. Let's see if we can get Vince. Oh, no. 1 second. Let me do this. Reconnect. Is he there? He's not there. Wait a sec. He'll probably try and come back in. Let's see if we can get him again, folks. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe his browser kicked him out again. We were just going to come up. I don't know how much longer Vince has. I don't have too much longer, but I wanted to get to some of your questions before we send Vince off into his day. Wait a second. Hang on. Here he is here. Wait. Let me see if I can get him here. I thought I did that. Vince, is he there? No, he's not there. Wait a second. Where did that go now? Hang on. Oh no. Let me, hang on a sec here. Vince, we're just trying to get you back. It should have, I saw you, that should have happened before, but, reconnect to previous session, start session, restart session. Oh, wait, no, that didn't work. Hang on, Vince. I'm going to send you a new link. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you a new link. That's what I'm going to do. So 1 second here. Let me see if I can do that. I should be able to do that. All right, sit tight, Vinny, and I'm going to send you a new link right now, just to your Twitter. Okay, there we go. Just sent it to you. Log in there, and we'll see if we can get you back in. We'll see how this goes, folks. We'll see how this goes. And we'll see if Vin, I don't know why I'm calling you Vince will log in through that. We'll see if that works. Hopefully he's still hearing me. But yeah, this has been a great interview and great advice from Vince as well. Just fantastic advice. For anybody who is pursuing a career in filmmaking from that side. Hopefully he can still hear me. I did send him that link. Let me see. What's the chat room talking about? The chat room is still there. Things are going strong. Don't worry, folks. We'll see if we can get him back. Hopefully we can get him back soon and do a couple of questions with you guys. Not sure what happened. Maybe he got kicked out again. Sometimes that happens depending on the connection and browsers and things like that. Sometimes those things happen, folks. My cat desperately wants in. Veda, not right now. In a few moments. Let me see. I don't know if he can. I don't know. Vince, are you there? Hang on a sec. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute, folks. Hang on a second. Oh, yeah, disconnect there. Yeah, okay. I did send him a new link, so hopefully maybe he'll see that. I sent it to his Twitter, and hopefully he'll see that. I will, I'm not sure if he's seen it, but we shall see. Okay, well, we'll see what happens here. Hopefully we can get him back. Let me just, oh, wait, no, he's not back. Not back yet, but we're going to do our darndest to see if we can get Vince back. Vince, if you can hear me, I just sent you a link to your Twitter. That's a new link. Click on that, see if you can log in, and I'll put you back up. I know, we both have to go here very soon, and I will, maybe we can take a question or two from the audience before you go. If you are having trouble getting back in, just shoot me a message on Twitter if you can hear me, and just let me know, and I can wrap up the show. No problem there. I mean, we definitely did have we got a lot out. There was a lot to talk about, but hopefully we can get you back on so we can at least take a couple of questions. Let me see. It all depends on what happened. It all depends on the reason why he was. Oh, can't reconnect. Oh, okay. 1 second. 1 second here. Let's do, okay. Can't reconnect. Hang on a sec here. See if this is going to work. Try this one. We'll see if that works. Folks. We'll see if we can get Vince in. I'm not sure what happened there. Who knows? But hey, it's technology. Sometimes these things happen. There we go. There he is. I can see him. There's the man. All right, 1 second here. Jeez, I don't know what happened there. I think you're probably right. You know that. They're probably trying to keep people... wait a minute. There we go. There you are. He's back.
I'm getting throttled.
He's back, the man behind the mask. Yeah. Hey, let's listen. I know we've been talking nearly 2 hours here. Do you want to take some questions from the live viewers?
I would love to.
Let's do that. Let's take a few questions from the live viewers. Okay, let's send in your questions, folks. There was a super chat that came in very early on. Let me see. Oh, it's the horror show. Cecil. That was at 11:14 a.m. Thanks, Cecil, for supporting the channel. Appreciate that. He says, never hike alone equals 50 minutes. Never hike alone behind the scenes is 30 minutes. Disappear is 3 minutes. Disappear behind the scenes is 90 minutes. Wow. That's what he had to say.
That's funny. Yeah, no,
Holy
he did
cow.
a lot of. Cecil's been doing a lot of behind the scenes for us, both on Disappear and Snow. He sent me about an hour and a half, 2 hours of. That's what I was watching, was the behind the scenes footage from Never I Can Show that he shot. That I was like, what did I shoot that last weekend? It's all a blur.
Right. Totally.
Let's shot to shot. They're just like moving.
Gotcha. If you guys have any questions for Vince, now is your time. We'll be here for a few more moments, taking a couple of questions. I got to skedaddle soon, but let's see here. Oliver Mercer says, hey, Vincent, when did you get into the film industry for you? Fan from the UK. You sort of touched on that on the beginning, but when was it?
It was about 2007. But I think like in school, it was about like halfway through school that I switched from journalism to media studies. I always knew I wanted to be I thought I wanted to be a broadcast journalist.
Right.
And I fell in love with movie making, and I changed my major and switched colleges and did a whole bunch of stuff. But it was probably around 2005 that happened, that I really committed to, I want to do this. And the first thing I took was editing. And that was the first love that I really had for filmmaking, came from an editorial background. And then through my experience of working through the industry, learned everything else, like writing and stuff like that. Like working with writers, I became a better writer. Working with directors, I became a better director. And kind of, I did schooling, but then you keep learning. And that's where you get your master's, really, is on set watching people, or in productions watching people and seeing how the bread is made and watching each ingredient get put in and the process as it takes, so that when you go to do it yourself, you understand what standards everything else is at.
Right. Great answer. Jonathan Ball says, great interview. Thank you, Jonathan. In Never Hike Alone, what inspired you to use the old crime scene imagery for the old Jason Kills scenes? What has been the response of Friday the 13th alum? Hear from other actors or directors.
Cool. The ribbon scene came by chance. There was actually a red ribbon hanging on one of the trees in the camp. And it would always freak us out, because we were always freaked out when we were up in the camp, because it's an actual abandoned camp.
Sure.
And it would be this thing like wiggling in the distance. You'd be like, oh,
yeah, it does look creepy.
Yeah. And so I started to think about, like, what would be interesting for a character to discover while they are walking through Camp Crystal Lake. If you're a YouTube vlogger and you need juicy stuff for your show, what would be really great? And what I thought is that this is actually true, is that at crime scenes, the cops don't clean up the crime scenes. No one cleans up the crime scene. You, the owner, are in charge of cleaning up your own place.
Interesting.
Since the owner was dead, Camp Crystal Lake was never cleaned up. It was just shut down, and everyone was too scared to either buy it or ever go back up there and fix it anyway.
Right.
So the remnants of the original crime scene would be left behind, the blood, the tags, and all that stuff. So when we saw the ribbons, I'd seen that on a couple like police shows where they used a ribbon to kind of tie off where a piece of evidence was, or kind of do that. So we thought that would be great. And we numbered each of the ribbons to kind of be the body count thing. Like the old trailers, which were like 1, 2,
That's right.
3, and it's just like getting killed. They're like spoiling the entire movie. And so we kind of were playing on that. And the original idea was to like find the tags in order. And I think I messed that up from day one, because I didn't know what order he was going to find stuff in. So I was just giving things numbers and thinking about, like, okay, there were 7 kills. Okay, this one now. But the only thing that was important was making Pamela's kill at the shore be number 1, because that was the first kind of thing they would have, like, that's where the investigation would have started, and then spawned out from there. And so it became a challenge to recreate the different settings, like building the bunk bed scenes, or, thinking like, okay, Steve Christie got strung up in a tree. Let's build the tree, and he's up there, and there's the rope. And so kind of things like that and that tree, that the ribbon in the tree, that was the ribbon. That was the original ribbon that gave us the idea. So that's where that came from. And then the alumni question, great. I mean, everybody's been super supportive. Kane Hodder, Derek Mears, Doug Tate, obviously, who was supposed to be involved in Never Hike in the Snow, but couldn't due to scheduling purposes. Obviously Tom Matthews, Vinny Guastafara, Tom McLaughlin. I've met Joseph Zito. I haven't met Steve Miner yet. I'd really like to meet him. I've met Sean Cunningham. Cool. I've sort of met Victor Miller. I've met a lot of actors. And it's just, and I think other directors and things from, Adam Marcus has become a good friend of mine, and everyone's just been very supportive of it, and kind of like, hey, good for you type thing. It's like, they really see the passion and how passionate I am for them, and getting to meet them and kind of get to know them a little bit. And awesome.
And the level of production value and the quality gives you as a filmmaker a sense of credibility and authenticity, that you're not just, some guy who's making a fan film. That's just, you are it shows that he is a legit filmmaker. He's put the time, the effort, the money, he's raised the money. You've gone through the same process that any professional production would go through. There's different levels, whether you're dealing with $5 million or, $50,000, but the process is still the same. And the goal is still the same. And the goal is still the same. That's right. And you reach that, you've reached that sort of, you know, when people say, oh, never hiking, they're like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And then, so there's a certain level of credibility that you have established, which I think is great. I think that's awesome. Let me see here. Jason Nike, who's one of my moderators. How you doing, Jason? Says, Vince, when will the campaign be for Never Hike Again? Please take my money. I will live off craft dinner.
That's funny.
Craft dinner is like macaroni and cheese for you Americans.
So one thing I want to be conscious of when I do these is, one, schedule. When can I actually shoot it? When can I get the resources? I think one thing that we can improve upon this time is being a little bit more prepared for some of the costs that we're going to get. There were things that we did for snow because we had to up the budget and up a lot of it, the insurance, things like that, because we had a lot more dangerous things on set. So it gave me a little bit realistic view because I hadn't made a film of that level before. So there are more costs involved than I originally thought. And so moving forward, I have to factor that in. And that's something now my producers are kind of taking over the budgeting and really taking it away from me. Thank God. And they're going to do a little bit more of a diligent pass on how much it's going to cost, because what happened with Snow was, we started as a 12-page short. We wanted to raise $50,000. I did a Blu-ray campaign, which made me say, I can't do a 12-page short and put that on a Blu-ray. That is just ripping people off. So I'm going to, now that I'm getting funding because I promised people a Blu-ray, I'm going to extend this because my budget's getting bigger. And I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to stick to the 12-pager, but a story presented itself. And I said, this story needs to be told because it is such a key component in understanding the core values of what makes Friday the 13th scary, but also what makes it emotional. And because I think that's something I wanted to bring on this one was the emotion. So I know I got to get to the Never Hike Alone part. I mean, Never Hike Again part, but we got to finish Never Hike in the Snow. We gotta get the pricing on Never Hike Again. And then the other thing I got to do, which you always got to be conscious of, is who else is doing what. I don't want to come out on the toes or on the heels of somebody who's trying to raise a lot of money too, because we're just going to fight for the same dollar. We want to spread ourselves out. We want to make sure that like no one's stepping on each other's toes. I have friends that need to do crowdfunding campaigns who are working on projects, who've been working on it longer than me for their project, you know? So I got to figure that out. If I had to guess, it would be later this year sometime. That way I probably won't do it until after Never Hike in the Snow comes out. That's for sure. Because then I can sell more Never Hike in the Snow Blu-rays that are coming in. Can also pre-sell the Never Hike Again Blu-ray. And that will give us a lot to work with. And then of course we'll have our EP perks and things that really boost us up. But we got to get the cost of that first. And I got to present everybody with a reasonable budget that says, can we raise this money? Are we looking at $100,000 now? You know, before I would have, like last year, I would have said, oh, we can probably make this for 50. And now I know that we're probably going to need at least 100. Now we've raised 100 with this one over 7 months of campaigning because we went in demand. How fast can we get there and get into production for this new one? Then how does that relate to production? Because if we do it in the fall, we're not shooting till the spring. But you know what? Love that pre-production window.
Of course.
Work all winter and build all the fun stuff. And make all those deals and spend as little as possible so you can put it in post-production and then do more stuff. But I think our goal over the summer will be to, while we're waiting for production or post-production to finalize on Never Hike in the Snow, us being able to go out and kind of pro bono go shoot some stuff for the stuff so we can do teasers. So we're going to try and keep that going, kind of like what we did with Disappear. There'll probably be another project like that somewhere in between.
That's cool. That's cool. Great answer, man. Great answer. Lauren Downing says, Vincent, do you find it difficult at all working both behind and in front of the camera?
Very much so. That's why I have a very good double. Brian Forrest is my Jason double for days that the camera work is too technical and the stunt work is too technical. Brian steps in, he takes care of that stuff based on the rehearsals that we do. I handle a lot of the acting scenes. He handles a lot of the action. That was the way it was on Never Hike Alone. Disappear, I did it all, which was it was very tough but it was a music video and it was only 3.5 minutes. So and we only shot for 2 days, so it wasn't a big deal. This was another time where like Brian was essential. Without Brian, we couldn't have shot this. I couldn't have been in the costume the whole time and done it. But when I am out there, it's a challenge. I have to look at every take. I have to stop. They have to bring the monitor over to me. I have to look at it while I'm wearing a mask. And I'm feeling uncomfortable and I'm all like, aggravated because I'm sweating and also cold at the same time.
Of course.
So it's all that stuff. But it's fun. I mean, I have a lot of fun doing it, and playing Jason is like, the days I get to play Jason are really exciting for me because I get to do cool stuff. And I got to do some really cool stuff on this one, which, I think last time Brian and I we were kind of joked about like who got what. I had the head crush. He got to walk away at the end of the film. And on all these different, he does a lot of the fighting, but I do a lot of the acting, and I do the faith reveal and stuff like that. So we each have like moments in the film that are ours, and he's got really great moments in this one, and I've got really great moments in this one. That's great. So it's a really good dual effort of us both playing this character. But what makes it unique is that we're both able to play him the same way.
Right.
And it's a lot of discussion. A lot of it is based on the research that I did originally for the character. And then Brian coming in and saying, how do you do it? And I say, I do it like this.
Right.
And then when he goes to do it, saying, okay, now you need to get this or that. And so it's a really good back and forth. He comes up with great ideas. And when I have an idea that I think is going to work and he executes it, it's much faster for me to go like, oh, my idea was wrong. And if I was in the costume and would have done that, that's how it would have looked. But I was outside the costume, and I was able to keep us from making a mistake, realizing, oh, this shouldn't be a 3-step move. This should be a 2-step move.
Right.
You should move bop, bop rather than bop, bop, bop. It's like, I think about everything in kind of music beats when I'm directing, about like how everything's moving and following along a pattern.
Yeah.
And even when a character moves, that they should only take a certain steps to get out of a scene because it adds to the beat and the pacing of a scene.
That's right.
And so, I mean, everything down to that. It's figuring out to that nitty-gritty detail. And when Brian's in that costume, I'm able to really craft Jason even better. But when I'm in there and I know the shot, there's certain things that I know to do with the character as far as head movement and body movement and just overall just feeling of the body that I can emote and really get in there and project behind that mask, which is my favorite thing to do, which is project emotion and character from Jason, and not just making him an empty vessel for
there's subtle things that you emote as that character that sort of almost the nonverbal communication. It's just you can pick up on how Jason is feeling by just the subtleties that you bring to the performance. And
that's very evident in Disappear. Disappear for me was an acting challenge for Jason, because I wanted to wear the emotion of where Jason's at emotionally in that scene. And you sense his loneliness, and you sense his isolation, and you sense that the curse is a curse for him too, in a way. He never asked for this. He was a 12-year-old boy who just wanted to swim. Do you think he wanted to be an eternal being that's in charge of ending the lives of like hundreds of young children that he just wanted to go out and play with?
Right.
But this is his curse. Yeah. And this is what he does now.
Yeah.
All because someone let him drown, and they have to pay.
Yeah. And his mother perpetuated that.
Beyond. Yeah. It's his duty to punish the wicked.
Yeah.
And maybe he doesn't like doing it. Maybe the reason why he's so brutal is because he's angry because he doesn't want to do it, and he's just trying to get it done as fast as possible and kill them as quick as possible.
Maybe if Mrs. Voorhees had never had her head chopped off, do you think that Jason would have became an accountant or something, maybe, or gone down a different path?
If Jason had never drowned, I think he just would have been, he would have been that weird guy in the back of the kitchen who handled like cleaning the pots and pans. That no one ever paid attention to, that everyone underestimated. Yeah. I think that what Jason represents for a lot of people is themselves. They see themselves in Jason because they feel like they're misrepresented, they're misunderstood. Right. They're looked at a certain way because they're not one of the beautiful people, and thus they're not given the same opportunity. And so people relate to Jason in that way. And what happens is that we have this stigma against Jason. A lot of people are saying he's just and sorry, I don't want to use this word. I'm just kind of repeating what people say, but he's just a big dumb retard. Right. And it's a really ignorant way to look at him, saying that like all he is a person with hydrophilic whatever. However you pronounce that big long word. Yeah. But that's just a physical deformity. Yeah. He might not have any mental deficiencies.
That's a good point.
He might be a quite smart and wonderful young boy if you give him a chance.
He might be what would be perceived today as high functioning autism even.
Maybe. And his mother knows that, and his mother knows that he's a sweet, young, great child. He just needs a chance, but everybody else treats him like crap. Right. And nobody pays attention, and nobody wants to be around him. And because he isn't given the guidance and support from the community that every other child gets, he ends up becoming the victim of that circumstance. Yeah. And when someone is supposed to be held accountable for the loss of life, that no one's held accountable because everyone's untouchable.
Yeah.
Everyone's there for you when they say that they want to support you and support your thing. Hey, we're going to hire you even though you have this son and we support what you're doing.
That's right.
Well, now you've killed my son and you're responsible. How are you going to pay me back for this? How are you going to make this right? And the only thing that she's given is a pink slip. That's the reason why we're in the situation we're in.
100%. 100%. 100%.
It's someone who's felt outcast and then cast aside.
Right.
I mean, that's the same thing, but eventually saying, I'm not going to take it anymore and you will pay for what you've done. And that's what Mrs. Voorhees is. And she believed it and became it. She became an active vengeance. She became an active form of revenge, that even so much so that in her death, her son was brought back to life to carry it on, because that's how much the spiritual realm says this area of the world deserves justice and basically punishment.
Yeah.
This area of the world is being punished for an event that caused a loss of life. And within that ripple through the spiritual realm created a rift where Jason was never allowed to die. He was just down there at the bottom of the lake because he couldn't let his mother go. And she loved him so much that she couldn't let him go. And that love, which is kind of a cool thing that I think is the aspect of Friday the 13th, which has never been hinged on, is the fact it's that love which caused it. These people loved each other so much that they wouldn't die for each other.
Right.
Jason wouldn't die for his mother. And when she died, she created new life for him to carry on this revenge, to remind people that they were slighted. And that's the difference between logic and entertainment logic. So in entertainment logic, if you follow that course, you have a great supernatural story that has emotion in it. And you understand what the motivations of those characters are and where they're coming from. It's not an empty vessel movie about a guy who just wants to kill people because they're having sex.
Right.
He's killing people because they killed him.
Right.
They did that. They were not paying attention and they didn't allow him to think. So now he's going to make everybody else pay for it. That's such a cool aspect to look at it from. Right.
What's so great about
very much like Psycho.
What you're saying, what's so great about what you're saying is that you're taking what otherwise is you've taken the crux of the Friday the 13th story, and especially that first installment where we get a bit of exposition from Mrs. Voorhees about what happened to Jason and blah blah blah, and then of course there's the rumor that he came back to kill because he saw his mother beheaded on the beach that night. But what's so great about what you've done is you've taken and you sort of, you've done, you remind me of when I talk about Halloween. What you've done is you've gone deeper and you've taken out the potential that was there, but never expanded on or dove deeper in with any sort of layers. And rightly so, because it is at its core and at its roots and always has been a, B-movie slasher type film. That's what gets people in the seats. That's what people want to see. Oh, how, what is he going to kill today? How is he going to kill? Oh, that's an awesome kill. Here's my top 10 kills. And that's all important. Right, exactly. And that's all important. But hearing you talk just now, it's fascinating to see, because you've done the legwork, you've done the thinking, you've dove deeper, and you were able to pick out things and be able to sort of look at certain things from a certain perspective, get others to look at Friday the 13th from a different perspective, and maybe in ways that they haven't consciously thought about. You've brought sort of maybe the subconscious to the forefront, to the the front of their conscious mind, and are able to sort of get them to say, hey, if you think about it, this is really what is going on here. And if you take this, something that maybe they just didn't bother to tap into because of the kind of movie it is, and expand on it, we can look at Friday the 13th, and it's still Friday the 13th. We're still going to have all the little Friday the 13th in there, but we're going to make it a little more mature in the sense that there's more to hang on to there, especially for today's audiences, is to make it a little more interesting and dynamic. I really liked what you had to say there. It's a perspective that I even found myself going, that's a really good point. I've never thought about it in that way. But when you think about it, when you bring it to my attention, it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
And it's not that we spell it out in the films. We just create imagery that then resonates that.
Right.
And if you listen to me talk about it, now when you watch the film, you're gonna understand what notes I'm playing and how I'm orchestrating these scenes.
Right.
And the other important factor is that, like, I think what it is like, for me, Friday the 13th as a story continuity and thing obviously is messed up, but I treated it kind of like this pickup that I bought that's in the backyard that's on blocks, has no tires. It's just it's really been mistreated. It's been, what do they say, ridden hard and put away wet.
Right.
And so for me, it was just this.
That's a whole other show there, folks.
Yeah, there's a whole other show. But but basically, like, as a fan of it, defending it to other fans, like the Halloween fans and the Nightmare on Elm Street fans, who say, like, your fucking franchise doesn't make any sense, and always ridding each other, looking at it, being like, this is my baby. This is the thing. What if I put some care into it and I started to pull it apart and put it back together again in different ways? How could it match that level of criticism that it rightly deserves? Right. How could it surpass it and find its way to the love and passion that I have for it that's not as flawed? Right. You know, elevating the things that I love about it and putting that in the front, then letting it being hidden behind the sense for like needless nudity and senseless gore, where death means something, character means something.
Well, it feels more earned.
And it feels like you're on an adventure. It feels like you're watching a Star Wars movie or, you know, or something, or an Indiana Jones or anything that feels like you're on this ride with characters and you care about where it's going and that you want to see them again. Right. And you want to continually see them come back and reprise it and do it in ways that don't feel contrived and don't feel cheap and don't feel hacky, which these B movies have to turn into in order to just supplant and answer the formula, which is every 5 minutes there either has to be boobs or blood. Right. And so you have a character killing in the middle of the day when there's no reason to kill somebody. So you've had to come up with a dumb scene to get somebody in a situation that gets them killed. Right. And a lot of the times, not a lot of effort is put into those scenes. Right. And this brings down the overall quality level of the film, where one person in the audience is going to say, horror movies, love it when they do this. And someone else in that scene is going to go, it's doing the horror movie thing. It's another crappy horror movie. Yeah. And you lose that part of the audience. And it doesn't get that legwork where it only goes to the horror fans. And listen, like, we love our crappy horror movies and we love the stuff. We applaud Crispin Glover's dance in part 4 and like the odd things that happen.
Dead fuck.
Yeah, and all that stuff. But it turns off a certain audience. I mean, I remember a feeling when I used to watch these movies with my parents over my shoulders and they'd say, watch your eyes or close this, or I can't believe you're watching this. Yeah. And like, it made me feel like that's why they thought I was watching the movie. But I was watching the movie because I was scared of Jason. So I want to give new audience members a movie that they can watch where they don't have to worry about their parents looking over their shoulder and being like, oh, this is trash. I want everybody to be like, oh my God, I'm engaged. I'm engaged if someone's trying to tell me like the Shawshank Redemption. You know what I mean? Like taking it that seriously, which sounds silly for a Friday the 13th.
I get it.
That's where, and you get it because it's like taking it to that level of like, I want to take this seriously. Yeah. And I don't mean that every other fan film and everything else has to take it seriously. I love silly stuff. Of course. You know, I love over the top.
There's room for everybody.
Yeah, and we do a lot of over-the-top stuff in Jason Rising. We're making a very different movie. We're taking it serious, but we're doing it in a different way. It's expanded upon another thing. But that was just something I'd never seen done with Friday the 13th before. Yep. And I thought that Friday the 13th would exist well in that specter as long as it was taken seriously. And that's how I approach it.
That's great. Great answer. Great answer. Listen, okay, a couple more here. We'll take a couple of more, and then I got to skedaddle because I got a voiceover session coming up soon. Let's hear. Life says, have you ever seen or read Friday the 13th comic Badlands? The Friday the 13th comic Badlands takes place in the snow. Interesting. I haven't heard of it, Vince.
Yeah, it's a 2-part comic. I actually have it. It's in my shelf back there.
Cool.
And they explain that there's an overarching context of death around Crystal Lake. It's not something that just started with Jason Voorhees. It's actually been something that's been around since the native times. Interesting. And there's something about Crystal Lake that has an effect on people, and that curse expands upon it. And it's a cool theory. I would say overall as a comic, I'm not a huge fan of the art. I think some of it's a little lazy. But overall as a concept, it's actually a cool thing to kind of delve into the explanation of what makes Crystal Lake Crystal Lake. It almost turns it from Friday the 13th and this Jason Voorhees story isn't the only story there, but that this is kind of like
one of many stories.
Yeah, it's like a Derry, Maine. It's like there's a place it's a place that's evil. Right. And evil things happen here. And this isn't I think that's a great thing to expand upon, by the way, to actually go into like the 1800 in Crystal Lake and see something else that's like reminiscent of Jason take over the town in a way. And there's something that's been like, there's a history here.
Right.
That's something to really explore. Now, do I say that it's the end all be all, the final answer of Friday the 13th? No, but I think that the interesting thing is that if we're allowed to keep exploring and come up with, it's like Batman, it's like any comic. There are different versions of Batman. There's a version of Gaslight by Gothman. It's like Batman in what, the 30s or the 1800s or something like that. The same story set in a new tale. That allows you to expand the brand and come up with new and interesting things without like without having to like just go through the same old like steps.
Right.
You can reinvent the wheel and come up with new things as long as you keep making new material and saying, okay, we're resetting again, and this is a different version of it. Yeah. You know, they do the same thing with Batman. We've had Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, you know, Ben Affleck, and now we're going to Robert Pattinson, Val Kilmer,
George Clooney.
But I mean, that Tim Burton series was really
Well, was a version.
Even through the Schumacher stuff, it was still carrying through. And then the different periods. So it's like now it's like different ways to do it. And the only problem is that it's been stagnant and that we haven't had films in so time. And they, you know, the excuse we've heard from the studios is there's not enough want for it, which is a lie. Which is a complete lie. They just don't have to spend $20 million. They can do a $5 million film.
100%.
100%. Same thing they're doing with like Halloween, where they spend 10 on those, 5 to 10.
Yeah, so, 10, 15, something like that.
So there's that. And then they're saying that they don't have anything to make it original. They don't know, they can't do anything new. And I'm just like, I think fan films are the living proof. It's listen, but there's plenty of ideas. Just ask the fans what we want to see.
Yeah. 100%.
Stop overthinking it.
Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Just make stuff. That's the only thing. Just make stuff. Because
just
as long as you make stuff, we'll consume it.
Yep. Absolutely. Corey Dean says,
we'll want more stuff.
That's right. That's right. Corey Dean says, Dave, can we get Blu-rays of Never Hike Alone? Vince, where do people go to get Blu-rays if that's possible?
So we just closed our Indiegogo campaign, the in-demand. That was the easiest way to do it.
Okay.
But if you email me at whompstompfilms@gmail.com, I have a finite amount left. I have maybe 150 Blu-rays left in a box. Okay. I got to ship out the Indiegogo first, but if people email me, we can run it through PayPal and we'll just tack that onto what we get from Indiegogo, and it's just going to help us go towards post. And you know, if they follow us on Instagram, Whomp Stomp Films, or Facebook, we have Whomp Stomp Films page. We do a lot of announcements there that when I get through the end of production, I usually say, hey, I got 3 t-shirts left. Who wants them? Right. You know, I'd say, you know, and I sell them out for a discount if somebody just covers the shipping, because really I just want the space in my closet back. Right. It's not about making money. It's just about living in my house again.
Gotcha.
I mean, when the campaign starts, it's just like boxes behind me and I'm just like living in a box world, thinking about like, I can't wait to ship all this stuff out. So we do that. So we make it available after this. This is our 3rd run of it. So once we sell out this 150, I don't know if I'll do another pressing of it. Right. I mean, a 4th version, or I might just reprint the 3rd one again. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do it. It just, the demand has to be there. There has to be enough of it, and then I'll reorder it. And, you know, we take the funding, we process it, we ship it back out. And it's kind of a cyclical process. Right. Gotcha. Just email me at whompstompfilms@gmail.com. Yeah.
If you look at the bottom there on the bar, we have his Whomp Stomp Films Twitter and Instagram there as well. Just at Whomp Stomp Films, both on Twitter and Instagram. Send him an Instagram message or email him at whompstompfilms@gmail.com and ask Vince about it there. Listen, Vince, I gotta go, but I could talk to you for hours, man. I mean, this is just that you're so fascinating. You're so well spoken, well put together, and just, you know, there's a few things you've talked about here that I haven't even thought of, and I'm like, that's a really good point. That's a good thing to keep in mind, and I really like that. As you know, in this industry, you never stop learning. You always talk to different people, and you get little anecdote things and little tidbits from all sorts of people, and it's just really exciting to be able to listen to you speak and live vicariously through your passion in regards to this Friday the 13th, essentially web series that you're putting together. And it's just awesome. I'm definitely would love to have you on again, and hopefully sooner rather than later, when things calm down. I can't wait to see you again, of course, on the set. We have a lot of work to do. And we do. And I couldn't be more excited, man. I told Cecil to send me the updated script for Dylan's New Nightmare, because I just can't wait to sit in that chair for 4 hours or 5 hours every day and have that slop. I can't wait, because to lose myself into that role and is just going to be so much fun. So much fun.
To a different world, and I know that I think they're going to start the sculpting on it soon. To
Very
start
cool.
The bust. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I don't know. I mean, I think for me, it's one of those things where it always makes me happy to hear that like somebody's like, oh, I just learned a new tool that I can use on my set. Because one of the reasons why I like producing so much is seeing when the things are coming together and that, somebody's listened and, or like we've been able to really focus and work together and you see it executed and they get to enjoy that feeling of making a good product and releasing something and having good positive impact. Most recently with Jason Rising, we worked really hard in that teaser and it's been overwhelmingly positive in the response. And that's for them.
Right.
And it's like to know that like I helped somebody get to a point where they were like, we don't know what we want to do with this and we need some help getting in there. To know that like they've progressed and they got to that level and they're going to continue to go up. It's like, that's the best feeling. It's like doing it for yourself is great. But when you can look around, I look at the other filmmakers in what I'm calling my class. There's a class of independent filmmakers that are really starting to kind of rise up and you see their names popping up everywhere. And now we're kind of rising up together. And when you see somebody and they're working on something, being able to go over and be like, how can I help you? How can I help you get a better production value? What can I do for you?
Right.
And you start
100%.
to see that the entire class rise up and get better. It's like we're all graduating to the next level and we're making bigger and better films and we're taking bigger and better swings and we're all supporting each other 100%. Along the way. And I think that's important. I think it's important for young people and young filmmakers to understand that like you have to start somewhere. Your first project's probably going to suck and it's not your fault. It's just, you just don't know what you don't know yet. And it might be great. If you put in the study, you might be able to get there. But the most important thing is continually learning, continually trying, and never repeating the same mistake twice. What do they say? It's like insanity is repeating the same mistake over and over and expecting different results.
Yes, essentially. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so it's, I try to get people out of that thing. The thing that like, I try to identify in a lot of people when I work with them, what their crutch is. They get to this crutch and they use it and they lean on it and they lean on it a little bit too hard. And I just go and I kick that crutch out from under them. I go, figure out a different way because there's a better way to do this. Stop doing it this way.
For sure.
And that's how you grow. But if you continually lean on the same crutches your entire progress, you never evolve. You just keep making the same thing and regurgitating the same stuff. And you're not able to self-actualize and say, how can I do this better? You just say, good enough. Everything I do is great. I can't take criticism. And if you do that, you're never going to succeed in this business.
That's right.
Criticism makes you better.
Yes.
Having people being critical of you and challenging you is the best thing because it just teaches you to have a thick skin.
Absolutely.
And think and not get inside your own head and think, well, now it's my turn. And now I get to do all my ideas.
Right. And there's a right way and a wrong way to approach that. I mean, there's a difference between a critique and an opinion. And more often than not, there's, and then of course there's a difference between an opinion and an informed one. And, everybody, I mean, as creatives, as filmmakers, as a voice actor, even, I mean, I encourage, I like feedback. I want feedback. It's so important. But there's a right way and a wrong way to approach that. But it's so important that the independent community, we're all like, we all have this. Nobody sets out to make a bad movie. Nobody sets out to want to make something bad. We all have the same goals in mind. And rising tide raises all ships, really, at the end of the day. And much of the advice that you've talked about here is, all of it is just bang on. And like I said, if there's any aspiring filmmakers in the chat who have watched this morning / this afternoon, or will be watching afterwards, a lot of what Vince has to say is bang on. There's a lot of things he says that I've experienced in my own life, a lot of things that he said that I know I am about to experience when I approach the set of It's Me, Billy. So it's just, it's great advice, and just your passion is so addictive. It's so addictive. You know what I mean? I love it. Absolutely love it.
No, I love it. I mean, I get somebody nicknamed me the hype man once because I just try to get everybody so excited on set to like be there and work. And when you have that environment, it's like, look at the stuff we're doing right now, guys.
Exactly.
This is awesome. This is
we're making a fucking movie. Come on.
We're about to blow all over the walls.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, at what job do you get to do this?
Exactly.
So
100%.
You were here, and and then it's just those friendships you have on set, and then you work with the people you work with, and joking. I mean, we had such a great time on snow.
I bet.
It was brutal conditions, shooting in cold nights, but when you have a good crew and they're funny and everyone's got a sense of humor, it makes it go by, and you live for those nights. You have brutal nights of filming. You're completely stressed out.
Yeah.
And like Ben says in our behind the scenes, it's like, when can I go and do it again?
That's right.
When's the next time I get to go to set and be with those people and have all this fun, even though it's like everything's on fire as soon as you get there.
It's exhausting. It's tedious. It's tiring. It's fun. Fun is in there, but it's a lot of work. And when you're done, there's about that maybe that 3 or 4 days to a week where you're like, oh, but then after that, you're just like, when can I do it again? You're absolutely right. Listen, I'm going to run my Patreon window here in a second, but stick around and then we'll have sort of a more of a formal goodbye once we go off air. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Episode 33 of McRae Live. Really appreciate it. Again, don't forget to follow Vince at Whomp Stomp Films, both on Twitter and Instagram. The links are there, or not the links, but the ats are there at the bottom of the screen. Make sure you do that. Support, is it Pathosis again? Am I saying that? Pathosis? Pathosis. Check out that trailer on the official Whomp Stomp Films YouTube channel, which I believe just recently crossed 20,000 subscribers. So congratulations to that.
Yeah, that is subscribe, engage, get us likes and stuff like that. I mean, anybody you support on YouTube should definitely be, leaving comments, liking. Even if you dislike it, a dislike is still an engagement.
It's true. That is true. That is true. Dude, I will upload a video and within like 8 seconds there'll be 4 dislikes, and I'm like, what the hell?
The people just waiting for you. They're like, again.
Oh yeah,
again.
Dave again. You fucking son of a bitch. Just fuck. Oh yeah, it happens all the time.
Thank you for the engagement.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. But yeah, man, we're definitely going to talk again soon. I'm definitely going to have you on again, and I look forward to seeing you in Phoenix, hopefully sooner rather than later, if this whole pandemic can sort itself out, hopefully soon. But man,
everybody just stay home.
Stay home, stay safe. Watch Never Hike Alone.
Yeah, watch Never Hike Alone, and watch everything on Dave's channel and everything on all of our channels. Just go through the thing, give everything a like and a follow, and
every day,
help us out.
All day. All right, man. Stick around. I'll be with you in just a second. All right, folks, I'll be back. If who knows, I may always be back with some standalone thing, but if not, it'll be Thursday morning episode. I'm Mike Tyson today. Episode 34 of McRae Live. All right, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.